Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode number 350. Ooh, my name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined as always by my son, Chris Raygun. Chris, how is your life? Tell me everything.
Oh my God, 350?
Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, it's a long time.
That's a distressing number.
Long time.
Things are okay. No bronchitis kind of gone. I still have like a lingering cough every now and again, but I'm pretty much back normal. But I have this sinus. I still have leftover sinus pressure or something. It's really weird. It's kind of annoying. I've never had anything that's lasted this long, residually or otherwise. It's kind of a wild. I don't know if you guys have ever had bronchitis before, but it's kind of.
I don't think I have. No.
Yeah. I went through my whole life pretty much not having it, and so having it now it almost feels like. I don't know. It felt like coming down with a coal miner's sickness, where you're just how do you get tuberculosis?
Right.
As a
modern
podcaster,
man,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels impossible, but
right.
Alas, better now though.
Did I go into some of the show recently about disease? I had never thought about this, about the Indians here, when the Europeans started coming, obviously, and they were getting sick and dying. We know. But I was watching this interesting documentary about the Mayflower and the Pilgrims. And I had never connected, for some reason in my mind, I never connected the two things, that when DeSoto went to Florida and some in Jamestown and all of this, and English went to Jamestown, and they would interact with the Indians, but it was very limited, right? And they would get diseases, and then there would be maybe decades or generations before there was another colony somewhere. And so the disease would spread between the Indians, and it was killing them for generations before we were even really colonizing heavily, so that by the time the Pilgrims went to Massachusetts, they were finding totally abandoned villages and basically very few Indians left. And it was because the damage was already done by the time they were there. And I was I never really thought about that. It must have been very eerie. They discuss landing for the first time, and they have people in all their blunderbusses and all their fucking shit, and they're sneaking around, and they find just an abandoned village, abandoned fields, full of crops, but that no one's there to tend to. And I was man, that must have been extra eerie.
Yeah.
More than just going to a new place where everyone seems to have been hiding, but they didn't know that they were just dead.
Yeah. It must have been really hard for them.
Yeah. I was going to say probably a little eerie for the Indians that these people show up and then suddenly they all start dying.
Yeah, then suddenly death
indirectly as well.
It was hard for everyone.
Sure.
Well, I'm glad that you're on the men, Chris. It's good to see you. Dustin Furman, executive producer. Welcome. What's your shirt? I don't know if I can see it.
Well, it's One Piece.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm doing
I'm
all
less
right.
interested now that you said that.
What do you think of the back? Huh?
Oh my God. I don't like these kinds of, I'm not great. Why do graphic tees
You
have
are
to
an
be
extreme minority.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Too loud. Too much.
I like it if it's loud on the back and simple on the front. Sometimes. I mean, I kind of like all designs, if I'm being honest. I like a good back print, though. Good back print.
You like a good back something.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Now, how's it going on in your life?
Doing okay. I was before the show, I took a shower, did all that stuff. And Holly is working on sanding the floors in our one spare bedroom. So there was a mirror in there that ended up in the bathroom just because it needed to be out of that room at this point. And I walked by it and it crunched it, dude. So I broke a mirror today.
Oof.
Am I cursed? Is the podcast cursed?
Have you ever... Don't put that on me.
Oh. Well, I'm part of the podcast. You just have to accept it.
Yeah. Have you ever broken a mirror before?
Maybe, but probably not. I'm not superstitious, so it doesn't...
I've never broken one, as far as I know, and it would haunt me if I did.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
That you're superstitious.
I am deeply superstitious. I've said that many times. I am deeply superstitious, actually, which doesn't comport or make a fucking lick of sense whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense, but I am. That would ruin my life. if I broke a mirror.
What if
It's very similar. Yeah.
What if you broke a car mirror? Because I feel like that's I don't know. There's something. Car mirrors don't feel like real mirrors, and I know that they are, but they feel like distinctly separated for no other reason than they just kind of it feels wrong to suggest that. Like if you get into a car accident and your rear view mirror breaks or like your side mirror breaks, that doesn't feel. I'm not superstitious, but even if I were to like look at it through that lens, I'd be like, "No, you're fine."
Yeah. Yeah, it's
You
a
know?
little different. It's a little different. You need a certain quality and size of a mirror for it to matter. Placement.
Right.
A long dressing mirror, for instance. Bathroom mirror.
It was a long dressing mirror that I broke.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Crunched it.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, it is what it is. I don't think it matters. It's very similar to opening an umbrella inside, walking under a ladder. It's like I just don't want to tempt fate in some way.
Dude.
You know?
Opening up an umbrella indoors is awesome. It's such an awesome feeling. I don't know. There's something about it. It takes up so much space.
I'm in the kind of family, like the very weird family where like if you did that shit around people, they'd be like, "Oh my God."
Right.
You know? Get outside or whatever. Yeah.
You said it would be tempting fate. Does this mean there's a little bit of predestination in Colin Moriarty? Because if you do something, then it will then predestine you to have something.
Yeah,
bad
is that
happen.
really predestination though? That to me, that seems to be more of like determination. Like there's a bunch of different options, and I'm tempting the option that's going to happen that would have otherwise not happened. Predestined would have been that there's nothing. Even if I think that I shouldn't be opening this umbrella, and I am, that was already written.
That was already
going to do that anyway.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
I don't know how John Calvin would feel about it, but yeah. To
not
me,
feeling much anything now.
Well, yeah, for hundreds of years, I think at this point.
Yeah. Did John Calvin is the originator of that? You think is that?
Yeah, John Calvin is the originator of. Well, he's the originator of predestination as a doctrine.
Yeah, we've been having this conversation on the Snark Tank about how many people are attributed to ideas that are ostensibly just Tom Clancy.
Yeah,
where like they have no real association with anything that they're like deeply associated with. Like, was John Calvin Tom Clancy to that Splinter Cell, basically?
Yeah,
like, he had no concept of what the fuck.
He sold his name, and then everyone's like, "This is John Calvin's idea."
John Calvin's predeterminism. It was just some guy.
John Calvin's or predestination. John Calvin's predestination.
Yeah, predestination is like kind of an interesting name for a game. Actually, that would be an interesting. It is interesting. Tom Clancy was one of those guys where it's like still to this day there are Tom Clancy books. Tom Clancy's been dead for a long time at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Red Storm. It's all wrapped up, as we've said before, with Ubisoft and Red Storm, and selling his name basically to them. I'm pretty sure Ubisoft owns the books, but I could be wrong about that. Like I think the whole Tom Clancy like library and everything is owned by Ubisoft, or at least some sort of group that's associated with them, which is so weird. But maybe it is that way. This is what I don't like. I've said this recently about ancient history. It's like no one really knows.
Yeah.
Like if there's like a philosopher and you only heard of him because someone else wrote about the philosopher and what he said, and that's the only reason you know what the philosopher said. And I'm like, could be full of shit.
Yeah.
Could be full of shit. That might have not ever happened, in fact. Well, it's good to be here with you guys assembled here today. Even if Dustin's wearing a one-piece shirt, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's nice. I'm glad you like it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I actually thought when I was putting this on, I'm like, is it a little much? I'm like, I'm not doing it for other people.
Yeah, you're doing it for you.
I'm just doing it for me.
And it's not a little much. It's quite mild. I wouldn't have ever even known what it was.
It's like I got the shirt on. There's the flag in the background there. It's maybe a bit much at points. Certainly. I try to rein it in, but
you're certainly very
promises.
proud.
The anime's coming back. Less than a month now.
Oh, and you're all caught up.
I'm all caught up. It's been on break for 6 months. Longest break ever. So
6-month break.
Yep.
Wow. Can't wait. Very excited for you. Maybe they'll find the One Piece.
I hope.
Where's the One Piece? Just find it.
Never mind.
The real One Piece.
I was going to explain. And I just thought, no, this is a whole.
It's not. I don't care. Don't even explain it to me. I don't want
the real One Piece. I think is going to be the friends that they.
Don't you fucking say that? I knew you would say that. Some guy said that to me at In-N-Out, and I almost fucking killed him on the spot.
At In-N-Out? Why?
No, not In-N-Out. Not In-N-Out. Sorry. Five Guys.
Okay, right.
I was wearing. I
I
was
was like,
coming
oh, you
home
were in
from
California.
no.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry. I was coming home from the One Piece Symphony, and I had a One Piece thing on. And he's like, "Oh, so you think the One Piece is friends we made along the way?"
Yeah, of
I
course.
was like, "Don't you remember what
should've-
Whitebeard said at Marineford after the battle when he said the One Piece is real?" I didn't actually say that to him, but I wish I would have.
You should have beaten him to death. Is what you should
I
have done.
thought about it, dude.
Yeah.
How dare you fucking say that to me?
With a 9-iron.
And how dare you, Chris?
I
Nope.
don't know.
A little serious bit. Oda, the author, has already said that's not it. Like it's not cheeky.
Mm.
So we
doesn't
can
know.
rest assured that it's not.
He has
it's
no
not
idea.
gonna be cheeky.
He has no idea what it is.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
That's why he keeps writing. Because he can't, and nothing should go on that long. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm so happy for you. I love that you love it. I'm excited for you. Nothing should go on as long as this has been going on.
It says the guy who wants a new Mega Man game every fucking episode.
There are 11 core Mega Man games since 1987. Come on.
You've
And
played them
6 of
enough
them
times.
were
It's
by-
about the length of One Piece, probably.
It's like if One Piece came out every 5 years, that would be different. Come on, you know better than that.
I
Don't
I
you
feel
ever-
like you ignorant.
Don't you ever
You
throw
ignorant.
Mega Man in my face like that.
Oh, man.
It's good to be here with everyone today. Episode 350. Exciting times. Started back in July of 2018, so it's been a long time. Every week we've done an episode since then, and we're glad to have you with us. Remember, you can get the show 3 days early and ad-free over on Patreon, patreon.com/laststandmedia, like more than 13,000 of you do. We appreciate you. Your support is much needed, and we could not do this show or any of our other shows without your support. So thank you for considering joining us for a very cheap fee. $1, $2, $5, $10, $25 a month, whatever you'd like. Sweet spot is $5 a month.
Oh,
That's where
come
most people
on.
are. That gets you early ad-free access
What are
to
we
all of
doing?
these shows. The ability to submit your inquiries to the show. Just look at the newsfeed on Patreon each week. We put up our threads for each of the shows. You respond. We comb through. We pull them in. You'll hear a bunch of them today. RSS feeds. I wanted to say this. We don't have any specific news yet, but this audience has been very influential on the RSS feed. Oh, Jesus, Chris is gone.
Oh,
There he
what?
is. He's back. You all right? Everything
was-
okay?
That was different.
Yeah. I don't. That was.
I've-
That looked very different from my end as well.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
No.
I wonder what will happen.
Well-
I'm sure the audience won't see anything. Chris disappeared for a minute and then he came back. It was very,
That's the mirror. It's the mirror, dude.
yeah. So everything's
the
already
mirror.
fucking up. I'm so great. We have to deal
All
with this
comes back
for
to the
7
mirror.
years now. We have to do this. Like that's as long as the show's been going on. So the show's going to be fucked
The sure.
until episode 700.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
You
wonderful.
argue we've already been cursed for 7 years, so we're kind of just doubling up.
Oh, I'm definitely cursed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, in some sense. You know.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll show up in the final edit, but like I saw, like that little icon that says your internet's like not wired, and then it goes like the little globe or whatever,
Mhm.
and then it goes back to wired. That's what happened, and I audibly said, "What are we doing?"
Uh,
to my computer, as if it was gonna tell me.
Soon it will. Yeah, hopefully we do have that. I bet you we do. Everything is recorded locally, so hopefully we do have that.
Yeah, it's just like
Um,
it's real frustration in my voice. Like I loathe that technology just refuses to work after I've done nothing to it. I leave it as is, and it just it fucks itself up somehow. It's infuriating, and it will never not be. It makes me want to live in the mountains.
Yeah, I get that. I think the only reason, I'll knock on wood, like everything seems to work pretty well for me. Like my internet, I have Comcast, and it's shocking how good it is. Because I had Comcast in California and San Francisco, it was fucking horrible, and I had it in Boston, and it was horrible. And I think it's an infrastructure thing. I always think about this. Like my neighborhood's new, so everything's like new, and everything's working right now. But in like a cord, like a wire, an Ethernet cord, is just sitting there for years and years and years. At some point, it's going to fuck up, I guess.
Yeah,
I think about this when I watch the guy that I love on YouTube, Drain Addict, fucking awesome channel, which is like a guy in Australia that just like goes and unclogs drains in Australia, around Australia. It's a really great show. But I always think about this. He has a little camera and he puts it into the pipes, and it's like, oh, this pipe has collapsed. This pipe has broken. There's roots, whatever. And I'm like, this is a nightmare. It's like fucking 10 feet under the ground. What are we supposed to do about this? You know? And so you have to just rely on things working for a little while. And you're in LA. Like my internet in LA was fucked up too.
yeah. I think it's also just like a lot of people. You know what I mean? I think generally, internet is better in places. Not necessarily. You gotta have like that middle ground where there's like enough people to justify good service, but not so many people that it's like kind of like a big kind of bandwidth. Like I remember the internet in New York City being pretty bad, actually. It didn't really matter as much for some reason, I guess, back then. But like, I remember that very distinctly, where even just something as simple as like pulling up your GPS in New York City, which I'm sure like everybody's experienced if they've like visited for a little bit, it'll put you on like 3 streets away.
Right.
Because like there's just so much going on in any given square inch of that city, where it's just like,
definitely.
So it's definitely it's a mix of infrastructure and probably some level of density and all sorts of shit.
The only place I have I don't go to these things really anymore, but like when I used to go to, or I just haven't, like when I used to go to Jets games or Islanders games or go to games in California or go to concerts, like big concerts, that's the only time my phone would just not operate. I remember like 10 or 15 years ago going to Jets games with like the early iPhones and being like, there's just no prayer I'm going to be able to use this while I'm here. Like, it's not going to work. Just will not work because there's fucking so many people. And I'd get so mad when someone's phone was like working fine. I'm like, well, why do you get precedence? And meanwhile, I'm sitting here. I don't even know what the scores in the other games are. God damn it. Anyway, we were talking about RSS. And so as people know, a few weeks ago, we entered an alpha on Patreon for RSS, splitting the RSS feeds into individual shows, something we've been asked for many, many times in the past. This pissed a lot of people off, which we didn't anticipate. However, this entire back and forth ping pong game has been very instructive to Patreon, and I feel has been deeply influential on the engineering team there to give people options. So we received a message from Patreon engineering late last week, I want to say, after we recorded the show. And they were just basically saying, like, thank you for your patience. Like, we think we've figured out a solution. And we're going to have more to say in the next couple of weeks or whatever. So for those that are upset about the RSS feed, in other words, not having the unified RSS feed, or what I was calling a global RSS feed with the Patreon team, and then individual RSS feeds, it is my suspicion that you will have that option in the coming weeks. And so everything will be better. We'll see. But they didn't anticipate this was going to be an issue either. And I feel like it's this audience. Are you a little annoying? You're a little more than a little annoying, let's be honest, right? But it's exactly what these things exist for, right? Like alphas, betas, like use cases. And I think that unfortunately we jumped on a grenade and fucked things up for some people, which I just didn't anticipate. It's my fault. But I think it's going to be better for the broader Patreon brand, which will now have both of these options at launch, most likely. So thank you for your patience on that. Stand by. We'll have more information soon. What else? Oh yeah, a couple of letters here from the audience. So one of the perks, I don't talk about it very often, but the $10 perk, a big perk there is you get a monthly Q&A with me, and they're hours long, and we talk about usually not games, just about whatever else. Dante B wrote in and said, hey, gents, as one of the sickos that listens to nearly every minute of LSM content, I think the $10 monthly Q&A is flying a bit under the radar. I know you broadly promote at the start of Sacred each week, but I rarely, if ever, hear this bonus called out. Didn't even know I was leaving yet another podcast on the table and upped my contribution about 6 months ago. I look forward to it every month. Just wanted to shout out the tiers perk for any other autistic LSM completionists like me who may have missed the memo. Thank you for all the content as usual. Thank you. I enjoy doing the Q&As. Sometimes I'm a little late with them. My whole mantra with them is I don't like doing them when I feel like I'm rushing because I feel like it's unfair. So like I try to find like a day off or like just open time hours where I can just sit and go question by question and not feel like I'm trying to like get it done, but rather do it right. So we just put up February's. March's thread is live, and that's there as well. We appreciate your support. I don't talk about it very much because when you go to Patreon, you see all the different options, but I really want to funnel people primarily to the $5 tier just because I feel like it's so chock full of value and so it's cheap. I mean, I want it to be cheap enough where you don't even care. Even if you're working like a very menial job, you're really not going to miss $5 a month. So that's kind of where I want to funnel people towards and the place that's most comfortable. And then you guys can explore from there. But I appreciate you writing in, Dante. The $10 tier, Dustin and I were just talking about this over text, is like, I want to do more at the $10 tier, but I don't know exactly what. And I was talking about we've talked about it on the past on the show about doing Sacred Symbols live, as in like doing a live episode every week. Like this would be live. Then we just would take the video offline and then still publish it as usual. But I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll figure it out. Blue Moose wrote in as well and said, hey, Super Sacred Studs, big fan of everything you guys do. I've been loving the ad-free versions of the shows through Patreon. However, I noticed that on YouTube, even with the ad-free versions, there are still embedded sponsor spots in the videos, plus the occasional YouTube ad. I totally get that sponsorships are part of keeping the business running, but I was wondering if there are any plans to make the YouTube versions truly ad-free, maybe in a way similar to how some creators offer exclusive ad-free videos for members. It'd be awesome to support LSM while getting a completely uninterrupted experience on YouTube as well. Appreciate everything you guys do and look forward to hearing your thoughts. Stay sexy, my friends. It's important to note, because we get a letter every once in a while or someone like complains, or even Leah's being like, it was supposed to be ad-free. And I'm like, we've never promised ad-free video. There's never been an ad-free video for Sacred Symbols that would have otherwise had ads since 2018. So, and we really started doing video properly in 2021, and certainly from that point. So I know that some people are confused by that, but it's not a claim we've ever made. And Dustin and I bring this up every once in a while, and Chris certainly knows this as a prominent YouTuber as well. But there's a few reasons why we do this. Number one, uploading of similar video twice to YouTube seems to fuck with it. Like, it might not push the second video well enough. So we've kind of decided a long time ago that the video version needs to have ads in it because we're only going to render it once and put out that version to the public audience later. So really, when you get video on Patreon, you're getting it early. And we timestamp the ads so you can just skip them if you want. And skipping on YouTube is so easy. I skip ads all the time on YouTube. It's like,
yeah.
And then you're saying there should be YouTube ads. There will never be YouTube ads on the early versions, but we do turn ads on when it goes live for everyone. So you might be seeing that at that time. And this is another important thing. This is a really important thing that I learned with Colin's Last Stand, my history and politics channel, which is I did it all ad free the entire time. I didn't want to run ads, and that's bad for your videos because, and I didn't realize this until later. The videos used to do pretty well, but it's like YouTube has no real reason to prioritize your videos if they can't make any money on it anyway. And so algorithmically, it is far better for you to have ads in your video. And I'm talking about YouTube ads, like monetize YouTube videos. So that's the reason why it's a little bit suicidal not to play the game, though sometimes some people don't want to. And that's something I learned the hard way. So that's kind of the explanation behind the YouTube stuff, is we just don't want to upload the similar length videos twice with the same name and all of that. It's going to confuse the back end, and algorithmically it's going to be a mess. And we put ads on when the videos go live for everyone. It's just a toggle for YouTube monetization. It's literally a $sign like logo. And it'll either be on or off. So we do that because it'll nudge YouTube to share the video. So they'll make some money on it too. So that's kind of the explanation behind it. But I know that people think sometimes like they're getting the short end of the stick on this. And I'm like, no, we've never promised ad-free video. It's just not possible based on the way we throw things out there. If we did live versions of the shows, I guess you would avoid the ads, but we don't know if we're going to do that. So Those are my explanations for now. Sacred Symbols Plus. Recent episodes include a really good episode with me and Jaffe, Moriarty Cross Jaffe, talking about a bunch of things. I had Destin Legary on from IGN, well, ex-IGN now, recently, to discuss things. Of course, interviewed Shuhei Yoshida. That's available for everyone on YouTube now. And so on and so forth. There's a one coming up. What's going on this weekend? Something, right, Dustin?
For, sorry, I was writing a timestamp. It's the Monster Hunter Wild Spoiler Cast coming up on Saturday.
Cool. Very well. People seem to love it.
Yeah, it's going to be with me and Brad, Ben, and friend of the show, Brandon Duncan, who is balls deep. So we just recorded that last night. It's about an hour and a half long. Get real deep into the game with plenty of questions from you guys. And I hope you look forward to it. Please enjoy.
This will be Ben's first appearance, I think, this year.
Yep.
Very well. How's he enjoying his new job?
We haven't talked about it too much. I know he's doing a million different things, working on some indie games, which is cool.
Yeah, he's well equipped for it. I think more than the shit he was doing here, I think the stuff we had him doing at Lilymo is probably much more instructive for what he is doing now. So that's great. Okay. We no longer have a producer at Lilymo because he left. We're not going to fill that position again in either, because it's like, let's be honest, Trybreaker didn't do very well. We got to be a little bit easy with the money for now. We have a bunch of things in development though. We're going to keep releasing games. I mean, I think there are no fewer than 4 games in develop that we have going right now. And Barry's really efficient because he's obviously programming and designing things, but we use external artists, like a slew of external artist friends. So like we dispatch them to do all their things and then integrate them into the different games so they can all kind of be developed somewhat concurrently to each other. It's a clever use of time for a person that is not is a multidisciplinarian but doesn't want to do the art anymore and the music and all the rest. So, we're releasing a game later this year, I think. And no, the RPG is not the game. Although the RPG, I think, there's like a big build of it now, which is kind of cool. Like it's because I think some people are skeptical about things. I'm like, it's very real. I just don't want to talk about it yet in any deep way until it's time. You'll see more games from us before that. All right. Where are we here? Okay. Let's get into the inquiries from the audience. And just a few things to get into. We have some news, smaller news items. We'll get into what we're playing. We'll get into the bigger news items, including Death Stranding 2, which I am extremely excited to talk to you guys about. I want to see what you think. We'll end things out with 6 questions from the audience, as we always do. But let's start with some inquiries from the audience about some random things. Andrew Walsh wrote in about something I think is fairly important. And I want to address it, even though it's a little bit third railish. Hello, Sacred Gents. I debated on writing this in, but after some consideration, I felt like I should. Some of the comments on last week's episode and the audio post uploaded on Patreon were so disrespectful towards Canadians, towards Colin and Chris and others. Never towards Dustin, though. What has happened to everyone? I'm a very proud Canadian, and to see how divided, angry, and disrespectful everyone is to each other now honestly breaks my heart. If I was a new member coming into this community and I saw all of those comments, I'd be thinking, what the hell is going on here? Why can't we just be good to one another? If you don't agree with someone's opinions, it's fine. Move on. Who cares? Why attack people for such silliness? It truly baffles me how triggered people get. If someone has a different opinion than them, we need to be better to one another. This community needs to be better to each other. I agree with many of your sentiments, and I just wanted to put it out there. I want to remind everyone that, like, your behavior is your responsibility. And no one can really goad you into anything if you're not a willing participant. So I think it's time for people to kind of take responsibility for their own actions, their own reactions, put things in the context, put our community in the context of the greater world, and try to be a little more decent to each other. Because I am getting a little annoyed by it. Earlier this year, I promised a code of conduct for the audience, and I actually wrote it in January. And I've never shared it with anyone, including Dustin. Because I'm like, it's almost insufficient. Like, I had this idea of writing something short and sweet. And I ended up writing something that was way longer. And I'm like, it has to be this long. Like, we need to talk more specifically about what is going wrong and where the arguments are coming from. And the observations I've made have kind of made me want to rework that document over the last few months, because I just don't understand why people can't control themselves. I wonder this in many respects. Every once in a while, people, like way offline, like I wonder this all the time. Like, why can't you control yourself? Like, what is it about reacting that is so strong to people that they need to be heard, even if it hurts other people, even if it's derogatory, disruptive? And what I realized was that, like, it wasn't the bad shit that I see in our audience is not even about the content. Because I've reflected to Chris this many times over the years. Like, when people get mad at what we say, 9 out of 10 times that if I go back and listen, I'm like, I literally have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about. But what I realize is that, like, a lot of arguments come from distortions, misquotes. You know, like when people say you said something or did something, dude, we got to and this is, I wonder what people are hearing. I didn't put it in and I'm not trying to make fun of this person. I don't remember the person's name, but someone wrote in saying, like, last week you guys talked about Dan Houser, but you kept calling him Dan Harmon. I'm like, did you listen to like 5 seconds beyond where we said that? Are you kidding? Like, to me, I'm like, I don't even understand where, like, what?
Yeah.
We corrected it. Like, we went through this whole thing about Dan Houser
It was
and
a whole
Dan Harmon.
bit.
And it's like, I don't even have to go back to listen to know we did that. And I realized that a lot of shit, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this in your own way, in your own spaces too, but like, it's just like assumptions, distortions, misquotes, misunderstandings, and so on and so forth. The thing that bothers me the most, and like something that will be in when we release a code of conduct and really kind of nail this down, is like, if you're posting a complaint about a show that you've not listened to, no. Half the things start from someone, like, literally, I've noticed this over time. oh, they'll see the description and be like, oh, he must have done this, this, and this. And then it's like 17 responses, everyone flipping out. It's like, you didn't even listen to it. No one gives a fuck what you have to say about it until you've like listened to it and gone through it. We need to be more responsible as individuals with what we put out there. There's something wrong right now. It's not just us. It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's take some responsibility and try to fix it in our own ways. It might not work against the prevailing wisdom. It might be drops in an ocean, but at least we can like reinforce our own space. Tensions are very high. I get it. I'm not crazy about everything that's happening either. You know, there's a lot of things happening that I'm confused by and all sorts of facets of life that make me upset and hurt me and all of that. But we're not really trying to get into that here. This should be a place where people can kind of escape from that if they can. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable. I don't know, the last few weeks, month, I've been trying to tune it out just because there's too many bad things going on to let that kind of bad stuff also affect me, if that makes sense. But yeah, it is weird because you see things that a lot of times, you're right. It is like, I think that sometimes people have a podcast on in the background and they hear a 3-second thing and then like, oh, I need to respond to this. It's like, it's just a complete misunderstanding of what we said, you know, and that's, you know, happens. But it gets real weird when people start blatantly lying or making things up completely. And I don't know, I in years past, I felt like tensions rose late January because a lot of the US is stuck indoors for long periods of times because it's fucking cold outside. They need to go. I said this to you in an email call. Like, they need to go. Hopefully, once they start touching grass, literally, there's less time to spend angry at the computer than now. But, you know, with political stuff right now, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And I know that it's important and we talk about it when it's relevant to us, of course. But it's like, man, I hope for these people, it's like there's your own individual personality in life is so much more important than to have this consume every part of you. And I'm not saying it's not important, ignore it completely, but it's like, I just don't understand the all consuming nature of it.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know. I worry about media literacy. I worry about the ability of people to just accurately interpret the information that's being presented to them. I worry about whether or not a lot of the misinterpretations that I see on a daily basis are even authentic, or if they're, you know, just like, oh, it's a Jubilee video, or it's just, you know, where you just see things and you're like, oh my God.
We should do an Xbox PlayStation Jubilee.
That'd be so fun.
Where I'm sitting in the middle.
Yeah.
And I'm surrounded by Xbox fans.
That's gonna be a format going forward. It'll be like Casey Anthony versus 10 Babies Jubilee. You know,
did you see?
Like
she popped back up recently. Did you see that?
Yes. I think I saw Nancy Grace also pop back up in response or something, which is like,
she came out of retirement.
I think I don't know how true that is. You know what I mean? I didn't. Yeah, Top Mom. I didn't follow. I didn't really follow that closely. It was just like, you know, like clearly I don't know. That was like an OJ situation where it's just like, I think I get the broad strokes of it, but yeah, I don't know. Like, my concern really is just like people are really eager to be angry, and they're eager to interpret things in a way that will get them talking, even if that's not the correct interpretation. Or even like you said, like the Dan Harmon thing, like that was literally a bit, basically.
Right.
Like
it wasn't
like
even. It wasn't a
mistake.
hidden bit. It was very upfront. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I worry about just people's ability to retain information, or even just to acknowledge reality as it is before filtering it through their lens. Like I feel like there's almost like no step in between the filter of like, okay, well, let me see what this is and then let me interpret it. I feel like it's almost like people can't even see what things are anymore. And I don't know how real that is. I don't know how manufactured that is. I don't know how algorithmically determined that is. And then there's also the reality of like, you kind of have to be vigilant because there is an element to this that I wonder, like how much of the stupid nonsense is intentionally stupid to kind of inflate your own sense of ego, your own ego in some way. It's like when you see videos of people being like, what are the fucking, how many states are there? And somebody's like 12. And, I almost feel like maybe there's like, is there like a psychological thing where it's like, you're meant to see that. So that way you're like, man, I'm pretty smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where it's like how many people actually are saying that? And again, of the people saying that, how much of it is authentic and people just like playing for the camera because, we're in an attention. I don't know. It's a whole, I worry. I worry about communication a lot.
Yeah, I do too. Definitely. People can't read. People can't critically listen. And obviously, many people can and do, but too many people can't. It's funny you bring up those videos. I saw a video. There's like that's making the rounds. I saw it on Twitter of like, one of those like talk on the street things, like a pretty girl, and they're asking her questions like, but the whole thing is like, wow, look how smart she is. And everyone's like so impressed. But the questions because she gets them right. But the questions are, what is the biggest country in the world? Russia. I mean, everyone knows that. And then a question about, how many states there are? 50. And then the final question is, what does H2O mean? And she got them all right. She's like, like 2 hydrogen and oxygen or whatever. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
This is like 4th grade. And we're like celebrating this like this is like a great victory over reason.
But that's kind of what I'm saying is like, isn't that also like, there's a distinct possibility that that's the point of that to get you thinking like, what do you mean? This is 4th grade information. And then somebody comments like, I learned this in fucking 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And then
you
have like,
you're right.
You have 2 million people commenting like, I knew this, And it's like, that's what's so sad about now is like nothing. I don't know what's real or like what's authentic anymore. Like even just stupid people used to be like authentically stupid. At the very least, like more so than now. And now it's just like, I can't even really in good confidence say that that's true. So it all sucks is what I'm saying.
It's a very judgy thing to say. And I've said it before. And I don't mean to be so judgy, but like, I'm fascinated that people can't read.
Yeah.
Like it's a fascinating thing to me. I just don't understand how you operate.
Yeah.
What do you do? If like you don't know how to read, that's got to do something about that. I'll teach you.
No, you won't.
Yeah. Lil Renler wrote in, said, "Hey CDC, this week has been a tough one for me as my 17-year-old Boston Terrier PJ passed away in his sleep. He was with me through many gaming sessions and listened to many episodes of Sacred Symbols with me. Hold your pups a little tighter for me this week, and I hope you are able to have your pups as long as I was able to have mine. Thanks for all you do. God, I hope so, man. 17, such a great long life for a dog. Did you see, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, because Mike and I were talking about it not so long ago, that the FDA approved the first round of this anti-aging dog drug that will apparently slow down aging in dogs once they're 10, I guess. You start giving it to them. Pretty interesting.
I think I did see that. I think I saw like there's something about that a couple months back about I forget what the term is. There's like a specific somebody in the audience is screaming, but there's like the length of a microscopic hair or something that determines how long your life is going to be, and they figured out how to extend them or some weird shit. It's got a weird name that I can't recall at the time.
Chris, do you know that guy that lives in the hyperbaric chamber and he's like the anti-aging guy? I feel like you love that guy.
No, what is this?
Really? There's like the guy that's like, I had to find his name. He's like, his whole thing is like he's dedicated his body to like anti-aging. I'm surprised you don't know. I'll find him when I kick it off to you guys. And he like currently is like He's like hooked up to like an oxygen tank and like doing all this kind of stuff to like.
Does he look terrible?
Yeah, the funny thing is it looks like he's gotten a lot of surgery. You'll know him, I think, when you see him. I might have very well.
I think I might have seen like this in passing, but I never I never dived into it.
Yeah, it seems like something that would really, that's like a Snark Tank topic. So yeah, anyway, wonderful drug. Hopefully it has great effect. Because we love to talk about the old, like the really old dogs when you find out a dog's like in his 20s or whatever, like one of the Guinness dogs. And it's like that dog saw 9/11.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I kind of question
24 years ago. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The dog anti-aging thing is interesting because I was thinking about it just with my parents' late dog, Neko.
R.I.P. in peace.
His problem was like he was still pretty agile overall, sometimes not so much, but his thing, because my dad was doing like a bunch of research, like when is it time to do it? And there was a lot of times where he was kind of standing in fear. And that's like one of the big telltale things where I know it's sad. It's cute. It's also not cute at the same time. Like
that felt like that Bobby Lee. What is it? I was brutally molested by.
Yeah, brutally molested.
Like I was not anticipating. I wasn't anticipating a dog standing there in fear.
Yeah. So, waking up in the middle of the night, not knowing where he is, things like that.
Yeah, that's like, scary. He's got dementia probably or whatever. Like dog dementia.
We can preserve. Maybe we can preserve the dog's body.
Right.
Can we preserve his mind?
Right. Yeah.
We might be putting these dogs in like life support basically where their mind is gone. And they're saying, please kill me.
Yeah, but they're jacked.
We don't know.
But they're jacked with dementia, basically.
Right.
You're right.
Which is like a horrifying prospect. You
It's
don't
like
want
that
like a jacked dog with dementia running around.
It's like that meme, that concept album, like Everything at the End of Time or something. That's like, but for dogs.
Yeah.
Someone should make that.
What better though than getting 17 years out of your dog and then it dying in its sleep? I feel like that's kind of perfect in some sense. I mean, that's a really great. I mean, it's a horrible little Rendler that PJ died, but 17 years dying in your sleep, you don't have to make the bad decision. He probably didn't suffer. Probably had like a heart attack or something, and it's just over. Whatever happens, I don't know. And then it's so kind of ideal. I mean, if in a situation of unideal,
sure,
right, yeah. Of the scenarios where that would occur, that's probably one of the top 10. Because dogs. It's a miracle that they survive as long as they do. Really, they're so stupid and so accident prone, and they're just like, oh, look, a truck, let me chase it.
You're right.
Oh, look, a deer 50 times my size, let me chase it. There's a million ways that could end. Like I always had this fear, like, because my parents always had like small dogs, and I always had this like really genuine like alertness of like a hawk or something.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or like something just dive bombing out of the sky and picking it up. And I would always like, my parents would let the dog out and it would roam out, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not, under no circumstances would I be doing that.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny when Rush was little and I still lived over at my mom's, which I did for like the first couple of months. We had him. We noticed that like there was like a hawk one day, like just circling right above us, and he was just like roaming around the lawn. I was like, yeah, like he is certainly big enough to, or small enough to be taken. It is interesting to think about, a little scary. Yeah, I'm glad that you got a nice long relationship with PJ though. 17 years, that's wonderful. And R.I.P. in peace, PJ. R.I.P. in peace, be well. And to Neko as well. R.I.P. in peace. Yeah. He and I had a little bit of a relation, or he, right.
The other dog, Elora, who's doing just fine. That's a girl.
Yeah. He and I had a little bit of a kinship when we met, but just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little bit. I love dogs, dude. They're so wonderful. They're just amazing. They're just amazing and strange.
They're better than we deserve, I think. For sure.
Yeah. I was talking about this with Micah. Would you clone your dog knowing that you would get the same dog, but different fundamentally at this as well, because it's all about it'd actually be a really interesting way to teach and learn about nurture versus nature. But you would get the same structural dog. It would look exactly the same. It would grow up exactly the same. Conceivably, probably food and diet would change things or whatever, but it would be on the same trajectory, but it would be totally different at the same time in like a familiar shell. I'm like, no, I don't think I would want to do that.
No, I think I would want like a new dog if I were to get a dog anyway. If I were to choose to get a dog after that, I would want it to be like almost completely different in some way, like aesthetically and personality wise. Like the dogs that I grew up with they both. I mean, my current dog is, I think, about 10 years old, or almost about to be 10 years. And my dog before that, I had her since like my communion, and she was like, I think she was maybe like 18, 19, 20, like she's pretty old. But they're completely different, like entirely, like aesthetically. Like we had the first dog was like a fluffy white dog, and the second one's like a black kind of I think a Papillon Yorkie kind of mix, like some weird thing. First dog was like really aggressive and like really not cuddly at all, and the second one's like completely docile. So I feel like that's almost an ideal situation where it's like I don't want like a copy of the same animal again, you know?
Yeah,
it's not really authentic either.
Yeah,
totally.
totally.
A Black Mirror episode, only not with a dog.
Is it with like a?
It's been so long.
Is it? Yeah, I don't remember all of them at this point.
There's an episode with like a fake human.
Oh
that
yeah,
looks like
and where they have like a replicant of their dead kid that lives in like the attic or something, right? Isn't that?
I don't think it's a kid. I think it's her husband.
Or her husband. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
There's like a weird sex thing.
Right. I have a vague remember.
There's really only like 3 or 4 episodes of that show that I think are just like really killer. But it's been so long at this point. Like I remember like White Christmas was like a big one.
Oh, that's a big one. Yeah. John Hamm.
Yeah, but I don't really remember. It's been a while since I've watched Black Mirror.
Dude, Black Mirror, if you recommend it to somebody, you got to say like, just take it easy with episode 1.
That's what I tried to do with Mike. I was like, I love Black Mirror. And I was like, well, let's watch them all, or try to, and let's start in the beginning. And she's like, I don't want to. After that, she's like, I don't want to watch any more of this.
Dude, the first one is so fucking dark. It's
really fucked.
It's rough, dude.
The first one's a lot. It's a good starter episode for a show if you want to get people talking. But I do think because that's an anthology show, it's like you're better off just like which one of these premises sounds interesting to you.
Definitely,
and just go from there. I think it's totally a fine show to do that with.
All right. Finally, let's confront Dustin really quick before we get into the show itself. Just Kyle92 wrote in and said, Colin, it's time to check your son, Dustin. On Constellation, he admitted to fantasizing that listeners are cranking one out listening to LSM. He will get defensive, but only because I speak the truth. Believe me, how will this affect your dynamic moving forward? Dustin?
He's trapped me. Because if I explain myself, then he's right. I'm defensive. So I'm going to just choose to lean into it.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is just that we've put out so many hours of content. Surely someone's jerked it. And we just are there in the background for him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, huh?
I don't think, I'm thousands of listeners. I mean, millions of YouTube views at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe one person or two to the content itself. Rough. But people that have it on in the background, probably common. It's like, just have the boys around.
I'm always bewildered by like, because I remember like watching, there would be like porn videos and there would be like SpongeBob on the TV in the background. And I'm like, why are you turn off the SpongeBob?
Right.
What are you doing? And it's like, I'm always bewildered by the stuff that people choose to have on actively in the background of these intimate experiences. I'm just like, whoa, yo, this is. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. To see like a video of it's like when I saw that video of like the dash cam footage of the Snark Tank being played in the background, like
right.
Dude got into a wreck.
That rules.
I'm just like, there's got to be
That's
got to be something where somebody's listening to like, oh, I wonder what's going on with PSVR 2. He's cranking it. It's weird.
That's amazing. I love that. I loved that discovery.
Yeah, it was
some
amazing.
months back.
Oof.
All right. Well, we'll let it go for now. Thank you for writing in. All right, let's get into the news. Smaller news items this week, and then we'll get into bigger news items later on, a couple of them anyway. I want to start here with a Eurogamer article that people have been circulating, talking quite a bit about, named Mark Cerny FSR 4 for PS5 Pro is the next evolution of PSSR. There's a nice pleasant picture of Mark Cerny there with his little smile. I read 3 sentences of this and I tuned out. Griffmo wrote in on Patreon and said, how timely you guys discussed your PS5 Pro thoughts last week, and now Mark Cerny shares there will be notable Pro improvements coming in 2026. Could we run this DF interview through Dustin's PC Nerd Translator, that's Digital Foundry, I guess, to find some hope for us disgruntled Pro owners? Thanks for all you guys do. Please get that Phil Spencer interview. I'm trying. Disgruntled Pro owners, I don't feel like there are that many disgruntled Pro owners. People seem happy with it. But anyway, I do need translation, Dustin, and Chris, of course, you can talk about it as well. But what the hell was this all about? Because I have no, I get it, obviously, but I'm looking at this now. I'm like, what does this fucking say? You know? It's like Digital Foundry stacks up the new upscaler against non-ML FSR 3.1, along with DLSS 3.7 and DLSS 4.0. It's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just before I start, not the Pro, anywhere near the level of Pro, like Digital Foundry or something. So with that being said, basically the new FSR, so that stands for, I had a Fidelity FX Super Resolution. And the way these upscalers work, you may have heard of DLSS. That's the NVIDIA version of it, is it renders your game at a lower resolution and then uses machine learning AI to upscale the game to what looks like a native 4K image. And so currently PSSR does this. It's a form of upscaling an image. That way the console itself doesn't have to work as hard in order to have a 4K image. So AMD now in this new one uses their own machine learning tech. And because of, I think we talked about it a few months ago, they have that Project Amethyst, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're collaborating together. So they're going to be able to implement some of the new tech with machine learning and upscaling into the PS5 Pro. I believe they said they're going to start next year, because right now they're just getting developers up to speed, learning how it works in the implementation, and then they should be able to upgrade. So your PS5 Pro is going to get, from the looks of it here, a graphical upgrade to some degree, which PSSR right now is, depending on the implementation, really good. I can tell that it's there, even in some of the best cases, where you'll notice that the image looks a little grainy at some points, almost like there's a little bit of a film grain on it. So I hope that this new version is able to clear that up, because I think that's probably one of the biggest issues with it. But long story short, new machine learning tech from AMD to better upscale games that is coming to PS5 Pro.
Excellent. I saw some people circulating originally, is it like a new iteration of the machine and all that? And I'm like, no, nope, they wouldn't do that. That just seemed unbelievable to me. Cool. So yeah, that's nice. That's cool that it's modular like that. Like it gets better.
Right.
I guess that's really true of all consoles since 360 and PS3. They all got better, but this is kind of more of a fundamental like horsepower thing that is kind of interesting. Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, I gotta be real. Like we're reaching a level of like, I'm looking at this Digital Foundry thing and they're showing the side by sides and they're like, look at Ratchet's arm in all 3 of these slides. And I'm like, I don't see a fucking lick of difference, but like, God bless the people who can. I'm sure that there's like a great, there's a bunch of people, and I'm fascinated by Digital Foundry from like from the perspective of just their ability to even see this shit and measure it. Cause I wouldn't even know where to begin, like getting the tool sets or the programs to even measure this as granularly as they do. And so from that perspective, I'm interested in it, but like, truthfully, like I'm completely content with what the machine can do and how it looks and how it operates and how it runs. So like I a lot of this really just means nothing to me. Until we get to a point where like things are running at 20 frames a second, or like like we're at base 30 again and we can't get 60 frames at all. I'm probably not really going to care about a lot of this stuff, or like a lot of the performance, or a lot of like the little rings of the towel that we can get. Like, oh, we can get one more frame. You can get 61 frames now, and it's just like, all right, well, I don't know if that's necessarily sexy,
right?
To get 61 frames, but it's cool. I'm glad that we have the ability to do this to our machines after we've already got them, because I mean, like you said, it's an interesting shift, because our machines used to get better, like from a feature set perspective, like PS3 and 360 obviously got like more robust features and all sorts of things later down the line, but like the horsepower was the same. Like you were still running with the same, like what, like 512 megabytes of RAM or whatever the fuck.
Yep.
And you're pretty locked in by that. So it's interesting that we have like AI solutions now that seem to allow us to boost past the hardware, but I'm already at a pretty contented level myself.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like part of me is, it's true that I've not really played any games that have, except for Silent Hill and maybe a couple others that have really required the Pro anyway. But I just feel like games look pretty good these days. And we've discussed ad nauseum the idea of going in a more stylized direction that will differentiate games more than getting more real as we enter like some sort of uncanny valley. I think it's interesting to think about how far the graphics and the visuals have come. And the idea that we would be satisfied is a triumph in some sense of the games industry. When you think about the advent of 3D in the mainstream with PS1 and 64, that's not that long ago. It's 30 years ago. A lot of the big games on N64 are more like 25, 26, 27 years old. Look at Ocarina of Time and then look at the new games now, and it's like, damn, dude, this is a heavy refinement of where we've been. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm amped for that. But I've noticed this thing too. This is going to sound a little silly, but so I went to the eye doctor recently, so I know that I have like 20/20 or near 20/20 vision still, which is great. So I know it's not a problem with my eyes for sure, but, and I think this is kind of obvious, but I sit not so far away from my television, right? But I sit somewhat far from it, but it's large. It's a large TV. I can read it fine. I can see everything fine. But when I go and shut my PS5 off, or I have to like go do something at the entertainment center, I'm like right in front of the screen, right? And I'm like, this looks so clean. But I can actually only really discern it when I'm right on top of it. Like how clean and defined everything is, as opposed to the fuzziness of a CRT and all the rest. And how far we've come to really refining color and darks and lights. But when I sit back, I'm like, yeah, it looks great still, but it doesn't look that good. It's one of the things where I'm like, it's a reinforcing principle for me of why I think PC gaming is so interesting. Because like, then it is right in your face, theoretically, if you're playing it traditionally. And I don't know if you guys experience the same thing. I mean, it goes without saying. In other words, it's like, it's not a visual problem. It really is just like, you only get so much of this even at a distance, because you can't discern all of the fineness without like a telescope.
Yeah. When you get a new TV, Colin, based on your space, thinking back to it, it's been a while since I've been to your house. I want to get a bigger size. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about that. I'm surprised. Like the TVs are fine still that I have. They're 5 years old, I think, or almost 5 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we would go a size up, and TVs are so cheap, which is crazy how cheap they are. But I just don't feel like I need to upgrade. It's just like, it feels fine. Like it is what it is. It's another stagnant. I'm sure that there's all these things that TVs do better now, but I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
Okay. This game here that I wanted to share with you guys really quick, and people should go look this up if they'd like, because we don't get insights into things like this very often. But it's been circulating that a game for PSP that was pitched by Studio Japan called Stamp. The video for this, like the pitch video for it, has leaked, along with the presentation, like a sort of PowerPoint presentation for it that kind of describes what they're trying to do with it. And both of these are on the Internet Archive, and you can easily find them by just searching for Stamp Greenlight, STAMP Greenlight, and then it's presentation and trailer. Just wanted to share this. I don't really know if anyone cares so much about this. Joey wrote in about it, though, and said, hey, Sacred Crew, a canceled PSP game from Japan Studios was recently discovered this week called Stamp. It was a bit of a sad reminder of the types of games I miss coming from PlayStation, but thankfully can still be found in the Japanese indie scene. Was curious if any of you have checked out the pitch doc or the Greenlight trailer and what your thoughts on it were. Cheers. So yeah, did you guys get a chance or peruse through this? Dustin, what do you think of Stamp?
Yeah, I think it looks actually really fun. I have a thing right now for 2D platformer puzzle games, which I'm playing one and I'll talk about later. So this looks really cool. Basically, you're using the PlayStation symbols to solve different puzzles. Each different symbol does a different thing. The concept is definitely there. And so when I was watching this, I'm like, man, this might have been a really cool game. Feels like we maybe missed out on something cool. So unfortunately, didn't get fully made, but it's cool to see what's there.
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't go forward with it. I mean, there's a million reasons. They probably get a lot of these kinds of pitches. It seems like a little bit of work went into this, though. To kind of describe it a little bit more, the idea is to use, as Dustin was saying, the symbols to do different things. So like you can create squares, and the squares are like PlayStation squares by pressing the square button, and you can like use it to make a bridge to cross a boundary, or make a little rock that rolls down a hill and destroys something. And then you use triangle to destroy both what you've built with the square button and enemies by throwing triangles. The X, I think, is used to delete. Oh no, so the X is used to delete the things in the environment. The triangle is used to kill enemies. And then circle, you can use circles to bounce and jump. So yeah, it's got like Little Big Planet vibes in some sense, and a lot of obviously Japan studio vibes just from its level of cuteness. There's a 55-page doc about it, and one of the cool things I thought was interesting is they go into like what they would need to sell to break even, how it would look if they published it on UMD, how it would look if they published it on PSN, and it seems like the game's budget was somewhere in the realm of like $3 million. So something that they decided not to go forward with. The video is really cool too. It's a minute 39 long. Chris, did you get a chance to check out Stamp? What do you think?
Yeah, I was into this. First of all, I have such an affinity for the PSP. I really love that machine, and seeing it in the design docs and like seeing levels like kind of pitched with like the PSP kind of silhouette in the background. It's
and the
cool.
video like over the PSP handheld in the trailer, very old school.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic. Like it's weird. It's weird that I felt nostalgia for this game that has never existed, but I did. It's cool. I like it. There's like it reminded me almost of, it's not exactly Scribblenauts, obviously, because you're not like actually like writing or drawing anything, but like it had like that kind of, as I was scrolling through like some of the images and the trailer, it kind of reminded me a little bit of it. It just like spawning things in the environment and kind of like shifting. It's cool. I really like it. I'm kind of bummed that this doesn't exist in any real meaningful way, because I actually think this could have been really cool. This looks like one of the better. This looks like one of the better PSP games, quite frankly. Like I'm totally into it, and I would have totally bought it.
I can kind of see why they said no to it, and just in the sense that it kind of looks like. And again, it's not the visual language; it's just the style of game. It's like we have Loco Roco, we have Patapon, we have like all these things where it's like do we need another one of these kinds of. I could see that, but it does seem pretty cheap. It was also going to be made, I think, in 13 months, which is another interesting thing in the document where they show like the schedule, like the proposed schedule of when it was going to be made, and it was to be released in October of 2010. So it's interesting to think about what would have come out around it. They said it was going to be 20 stages, ad hoc multiplayer, PSP Classic with 3 more stages, 10 to 15 hours of playtime, and a UMD release is interesting. Yeah. I wonder if this would have been like a new thing for them or something. So the other thing worth talking about is the Stamp Bug family, which is really cute.
Yeah.
And they get more into it in the trailer, but like there's this story about these ink kind of, or oil, they're oil, I think, like these invaders, and they're like oil kind of polluting their land. And you collect eggs in the world, which are like the hidden collectibles, and each of them has a Stampy in it, which is like a new style of Stamp character, which they get into more in the trailer towards the end of it if people watch it. It's pretty cute. So like these are characters that look like just walking torsos with like big ladybug style heads, basically. And that was the Stampy. So maybe it would have been a cool little thing. And then we would have had Stampy in PlayStation All-Stars in 2012, probably.
Man.
And that would have saved the game. All right. So go check it out if you want. Stamp. Just a little taste of something that could have been but wasn't. I'm sure there are many, many such cases. Okay. Guys, this one was just announced this morning, and I'm amped about this. I couldn't believe it, actually. Although I was just thinking about it recently because I've been playing it on and off. PowerWash Simulator 2 has been announced. Developer Future Lab over in the UK have announced these, quote, sudtacular follow-up to the worldwide pressure simulating sim phenomenon that has worked gamers up into a lather since 2022, end quote. This is according to the press release. It's coming to PlayStation 5, no PS4 version, which is very interesting. So it's coming to PlayStation 5, and it is also coming to Xbox and PC. And I had forgotten when I was reading a little bit about it, I forgot that this came to Xbox first. And it was a Game Pass game.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until 2023 that I came to PlayStation. And then it was also on PlayStation Plus, and that's when I got it. Because it was one of those games that it was interesting to me, where I was like, yeah, this game looks interesting, but there's all these simulators. Some of them are stupid. And I just fucking love this game. I really do. Like, there's something so zen. I can see someone playing this and being like, this is the worst game I've ever played in my fucking life. This is the stupidest game I have ever played. But if you just get it, if you're just in that zone and you are very like OCD and meticulous, which I am, I eat it up. It's just that for me, I got to do it in bursts.
Yeah.
I do the DLC pack, and so on and so forth. So later on this year, PowerWash Simulator 2 comes to PlayStation 5. Very, very exciting. Sawyer Dinger wrote into us and said, Colin, PowerWash Simulator 2 just got announced. Do I need to play PowerWash Simulator 1 to fully understand the plot? Well, I understand the finer details of the world if I just skip to the sequel. It's funny because you're being facetious, but the thing about PowerWash Simulator that's very weird is that there is a deep plot in the game. Like a very deep plot, but you have to go and look for it. There's all these things that the world kind of tells you, but you get a bunch of text messages and documents and shit like that. It's very strange. I don't know anything about it because I'm not into that part of the game. But though you're being facetious, Sawyer, there is some sort of story. Like the town, there's like something weird about the town, I think, or something like that. It's called Muckingham, the town in the game. And on the Wikipedia, it says, at the beginning of the game, the player character just started their own power washing business in the town of Muckingham. They are gifted a van by their friend, archaeologist Harper Shaw, who helps them find their first few clients. During each job, the power wash character receives text messages from the client. These text messages often include information about the location or vehicle being cleaned, explanations on how it became so dirty, and their thoughts on things going on around Muckingham. As the power washer completes each job, their reputation around town grows, and they are hired for more work by new and returning clients. And then it gets into like the mayor and like time travel and all sorts of weird shit. It's really weird. It's a weird game. So maybe, but I don't give a shit about that stuff. And but I think you should play the first one because it's awesome. Although I suspect you're probably making fun of me as well with the question. I immediately thought of Ben. Ben comes up again on our show because I know he was the first, and I think still the major person I knew that loved this game. I'm pretty sure he platinumed it twice. Because there's a PS4 and PS5 version, which is an incredible amount of time to do. I platinumed it once, and it was a lot of work. So what are our thoughts on PowerWash Simulator 2 coming to PlayStation 5 this year, later this year? Dustin.
Yeah. I played probably 6 hours, maybe a little more, of the first PowerWash Simulator. I enjoyed it. It got a little too meticulous for me as the levels went on, but I think it's a cool game, and I think it's awesome they're doing a sequel. I think Ben said on Twitter, he said this might be the best news I've heard in a decade. So he's very pleased. A trailer for it is very cute. I don't know what's going on with these gnome guys, but yeah,
there are some new features which I thought were interesting to call out.
Yeah.
Because the original game is just about, like, there are time trials and there are like really difficult challenges where you can only use a certain amount of water, certain amount of cleaning product, whatever. And some of those are really tough. But generally, it's just you're going from map to map and you can just leisurely clean the house, clean the patio, whatever you're doing with your various implements. So that's going to be the core of the game, of course. But the things they're adding to this, you're going to have a home base. And apparently you're going to be able to like customize it with things you find in the various places you go. So that's kind of cool, I guess. The game can be played online, which I'm pretty sure the first one could too as well, but there's split screen in this one, which is probably why they're skipping last gen, I would assume.
Yeah.
And the DLC support has been really varied for the game, and so I am hoping that they have a lot of cool stuff lined up for that too to keep it going. I give them a lot of credit for doing a sequel, because you could very easily have just kept the original game probably and just kept releasing things for it. So I'm all over this thing.
Yeah.
Chris, are you a PowerWash Simulator?
Yeah, I actually started playing it again this week because I'm just trying to. I guess I'll get into it when I talk about what we're playing. But like, yeah, this looks cool. Like there is something about it where there is a meticulousness that I think it serves that I don't think I see in a lot of other games. There is also just something about the feeling of doing that action where, like, I don't know if you guys have you guys ever power wash things in like actually?
No,
like,
I'm afraid to, because I'm afraid I'm gonna fuck something up.
Dude, it really is a satisfying feel. Like it is that it's twice as it's 15 times more satisfying than it is in the game. But like the fact that there's even an option to experience that from like the comfort of your own home is really cool, because there is like a satisfaction in just like getting everything clean. And this is like very, I don't know, it's such a specific kind of feeling, but I'm into it. I like it. It is one of those games where like I don't know if I could play for too long. It's definitely like you were saying, like a burst kind of game. Like I have to do like maybe like one level every so often, because it is like a unique kind of feeling. And then by the time you're done, you're just like, all right, I'm good. But then eventually the itch comes back,
right,
to kind of jump in, and that is interesting. So that there is a second one that there is split screen, and it is fucking hilarious to me. But yeah, I'm totally into this. I think it's great. I don't really understand the trailer at all, because that gnome shit is confusing. I don't really understand, and I'm with you too, where I see these notifications pop up in the game, or like these like text messages, and I'm like, I'm under no circumstances am I reading that.
Yeah, exactly. I've not read one. No. I've not read one of the things. The gnome is kind of like the mascot, I guess, of PowerWash Simulator.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. There's a specific stage where, like, you get trophies for doing different things, and it's like cleaning the gnome and stuff like that. There's something about that character. I don't know. Maybe I would know more if I read the in-game lore, but I didn't. But I platinumed PowerWash Simulator. Have done most of the DLC, but there's still a few packs for me to do. Jordan Faldudo wrote in and said, Colin will power wash a lemon rust tank from Warhammer 40k, but won't power wash his bunghole with a bidet in real life. Curious.
Yeah.
It's all about the wipes, baby. If you need them.
Did you do which DLC packs have you done in PowerWash Simulator?
The Warhammer one, the Alice in Wonderland one, and one other one.
Did you do the Shrek one?
No, I did SpongeBob. I haven't done Shrek yet. No.
It's the concept of you going through these spaces with no context for like what any of it is amazing to me.
It's what happened with SpongeBob. It's awesome. Yeah.
I almost feel like that would be worth like maybe not like a stream, but like almost like those old style. You remember when we used to do the Let's Play videos?
Yeah, those were fun.
Because I just love I want to know what you would call some of the shit that you see in, you know what I mean? Like, who's that, Gerald? Or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, I would be so curious to see like what your interpretation is of like the things that they put in front of you that are specifically only there because everybody who plays it would recognize it.
I had that experience with SpongeBob where I had Micah call out a bunch of things. Like, I'm like, so what is this? What is this? Like, I don't know what I'm just cleaning. I'm just here to do a job. You know? I'm not trying to get involved in your business.
That's a good video, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'll be interested to see, what they can. If I had the leverage of Lilymo to get our games in there, I would. It's like, if there must be big fans of that shit in the industry trying to get their stuff in the game, because the original stuff makes sense. Square Enix was the original publisher of PowerWash Simulator. I'm pretty sure FutureLab is publishing this themselves this time, and Square Enix doesn't really want to have anything to do with these smaller Western games anymore anyway. Although this game wasn't very small, but I wonder what's stopping them from collaborating with more and more people, because a lot of the original stuff was facilitated by Square Enix. Like, there's Final Fantasy stuff in there and Tomb Raider stuff and all the rest.
A whole new world is probably going to open with this one.
I hope
What's
so.
your idea? What's your dream? Like, what would be something that would get you like, oh man, I got a power wash in that world?
Yeah, that's a great question. BioShock would be awesome. You know,
Oh, that would be
Oh, yeah.
cool.
yeah.
That would. I was gonna say like I was thinking like Castlevania, but things are supposed to be dirty in Castlevania, so like I don't know how you would even really do that in a satisfying way. Or at least not like pristine, I guess.
Like you go to Rapture and you're like, all right, let's fix this place up. You know, after the Civil War and shit.
That would be fucking awesome. You have to like hose down blood off of wrenches.
All the spray paint, like get like all
all the environmental storytelling. You just wash it away.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's a great idea. If anybody's listening, like that is a killer fucking idea.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Just to wipe all of the history away from the world of BioShock.
If publishers had more of a sense of humor about their IP and weren't so precious, that would be the shit that if I were the CEO, I'd be like, that would be awesome.
Oh,
that'd
easily.
Be so strange. You know? And by the way, we're releasing a new version of BioShock, special edition or something. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Some more news to get into here. Looks like we probably have a release date for Indiana Jones, and it's very soon. I don't know what's stopping people from saying anything. The French website Deal Labs magazine, which we cite every so often, which clearly has some sort of insight into the PSN, although I don't know how or why. They note that while Tom Warren over at The Verge had noted a while ago that Indiana Jones would come out nebulously April 2025, it seems like there's probably data on the PSN that indicates that it's going to be April 17th. So it's about a month away, and there's going to apparently be early access as well. There'll be at least 2 physical editions of the game, a standard edition and a premium edition, according to this website. And it's likely that if you get the premium digital edition, you'll probably get it 2 or 3 days early. Although the game had already come out on PC and Xbox in December, so you're not really getting it early, and so you probably want to control yourself, but maybe you don't. Are we going to play? Wait, so you guys already played Indiana Jones, right?
I didn't finish it, but I played some of it on PC. Yeah.
And what did you think?
I liked it, but there was other stuff going on that was calling me in more. I'd like to get back to it at some point, but it was cool. Very, I think, Chris, we were talking about it being somewhat immersive, simmy, not really, kind of Dishonored-like in some ways, which was cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's like it's an immersive sim light, I guess, but it's more about like immersing you in the role of Indiana Jones. So like there's like certain aspects of like the stealth isn't very like good, but it almost feels like it's like not supposed to be because you're kind of approaching it from the perspective of like, I mean, the way that I thought about it was like, there are scenes in Indiana Jones where like he's looking at, I don't know, like a group of Nazis or whatever, and he's so clearly visible to them, but for the sake of the movie and the adventure, like they don't notice. And so it kind of feels like that, where like it's pretty forgiving in that realm, where like it just kind of lets you fulfill that Indiana Jones fantasy, which I didn't really think would be as cool of a thing as it ended up being. But like, yeah, Indiana Jones is fantastic. I'm stoked about it coming to PS5 because it's just, I mean, presumably it'll be the best version of it.
Yeah, I'm pro for sure. I
on console.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm going to buy it and play it for sure. And I was looking at the trophies or the achievements, and it looks like it'll be a gettable platinum trophy as well, as long as they keep everything the same, which I'm sure they will. So we can look forward to that. No confirmation yet, but Indy and the Great Circle comes to PS5. It looks like April 17th. So keep an eye out for that. We'll continue with the kind of Xbox Aligned news here with news from the reliable leaker Nate the Hate that this Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake is really imminent. He's asked online by a man named The Walrus, "Hey Nate, are you expecting news about the Oblivion remake this month?" And he says either this month or next month. So either March or April. Release is likely to be sooner than the original June target, but still working to get details on an updated release date. They've really kept this thing very close to the vest. Of course, Oblivion came out on 360 and PC back in 2006. We got it on PS3 in 2007 in a somewhat questionable version. And it's a notoriously famous, time-sucking, influential sort of game. Predates Fallout 3, which was my entry into kind of those style games. So I'd be interested in checking this out, although I don't think I would do it with any immediacy. Chris, what do you think about Oblivion looking like it's going to come to PlayStation 4 and 5? I assume both. Maybe in May.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly curious about what this is going to be from like a fundamental level, because like there's a lot of I've seen a number of rumors about like how from the ground up is it, or like it's the original creation engine kind of running underneath Unreal. Like I'm really curious as to like what it's ultimately going to be, because how transformative this ends up being kind of determines, I think, how people are going to be excited about it, or how excited people are going to be about it. Oblivion is definitely one of those games where like I don't have like a huge history with it. I played a little bit of it back in the day, and I tried to play a little bit of it, I think, way later. Like I think like maybe like 2017 ish, like sometime around then. And it definitely felt like, man, this is a rough. This is definitely of its time in a way that Skyrim didn't feel. Not that Skyrim is, the most modern example of like Skyrim does still feel dated, and even at that time it did feel a little bit dated. But the valley between those games, from like a game feel and like a UI perspective, and just like the way that things are running, is like it's a mountain of a difference. And I just couldn't really get into it, and so I'm curious as to like, is it going to be as janky as it used to be? Like, are they going to polish it up? Is it going to be a more faithful, just 1-to-1? Is it going to feel uncanny also, like with like all this, like this new layer of paint over this like rigid, old animation framework and old engine? Like, I'm really curious as to how they're going to pull it off, and how it's going to read, because I do think there's a pretty high potential of this thing kind of reading kind of like really fucked up. And so I'm really curious how they're going to handle it.
Yeah, it's true. It's interesting to think about it from the perspective of they're either hiding it to be surprising, or they're hiding it because it's not very good. But
right,
they're still getting out. There is an interesting aspect to that. I hope that they know better than that. I think that they do. I think that they probably do. But yeah, maybe we should keep our expectations in check.
Yeah, I guess because I look at it, that's an important game to have, right? Like from a historical perspective, like that's like a really important like game in the industry. And so I'm kind of the mind like where I could see both arguments, where like you want to bring it forward because it's an important game from a historical perspective, but also like you do want to make a good game. And so if you have the option to fix things, like why wouldn't you? But then that has the potential to really fuck with something that people really, really love. I mean, people love how janky Halo 2 is, I'm one of those people, and they chose to go like a 1-to-1 kind of, just a coat of paint over the old game, which I think works for that game. But this is one of those situations too, where like I could see a lot of people, especially original Oblivion fans, who like swear by that game even in the face of Skyrim, which I think is crazy. But they're really purist about it. Like there's even people who like don't want the UI to change, and I'm like, that is one of the biggest things that fucking absolutely needs to change. That UI is horrible.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, it's fucking unreadable in a lot of places, where you're just like, I don't know about this, man. But it's a purist. It's a very purist. They love that game, and so it's a tightrope walk, I think, for Oblivion Remake, as to like which direction they go with it, how much they tweak, how much they change. I'm excited about it though.
All right, we'll keep it up. We'll have news presumably soon, and we'll understand when it's coming to PS5, PS5 Pro, probably PlayStation 4. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see though. All right, final piece of Xbox related news for us this week, and I feel like this is just going to be a trend every week now moving forward. There are some people that are upset that Forza Horizon 5, which is coming to PlayStation 5 on April 29th, and you begin playing it April 25th if you pre-order the premium edition, as we know. It will require, according to the website's FAQ for the PlayStation release, it will require a Microsoft account. So it says, Q, do I need a Microsoft account to play Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5? A, yes. In addition to a PSN account, you'll need to link to a Microsoft account in order to play Forza Horizon 5 on PS5. This process begins the first time you start up the game on your console. And then you link the two. You're obviously going to need PS Plus as well, but that's true for all online games. And they also confirm a few other things that obviously the trophies are going to be there for people, and all DLC, car packs, premium add-ons, bundles, and all other things will be available for people to buy as well. So there's that. If you're curious, I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm sure some people do. However, there is something that's a little more curious regarding Forza 5 or Horizon 5 that is in this FAQ, and also that Josh Bailey wrote in about. He says, Dustin, Colin, and Chris, please chime in as you see fit. I was excited to try Forza Horizon 5 on PS5, as that is one of the few series I feel like I've been missing because I play primarily on PlayStation. However, the news that there will be no disc SKU had me extremely disappointed. Do we think this trend will continue for other classic Xbox games like Gears of War, or will this be an exception because Forza is an older game? I mean, the Gears of War games are way older than Forza Horizon 5. That are at least in that trilogy that's apparently coming. What do you think about this, Dustin? Lack of a disc version. They say it here and reiterate it that there's not going to be a physical version, that there's no physical version planned. And that's a little surprising to me because PlayStation, they have to learn a little bit more, I guess, at Microsoft, that the PlayStation audience does want these disc versions in a large enough amount that I think it's worth your while to pursue. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're missing out just because that's the type of game that's an easy sell on, a Target or GameStop shelf. Someone goes in, sees a cool car game. It's not like Alan Wake, even though I think that should have been physical as well at launch, is that it's kind of an easy sell to people that are walking around or as you were saying, PlayStation audience that wants physical games. I wonder, even though they have, as they say, no plans right now, if they will eventually, because I think Sea of Thieves didn't at launch, but did get one later for PlayStation 5. So hopefully they change that. My one thing for Josh, though, is for us physical people out there, is that don't let this not let you enjoy the game. Just get it. Just get it and enjoy the game. That's what I always tell people, is it's like, I love physical games, but I care about games in general more than how I purchase them. So if you want this game, just go get it. It's okay. That's what I did with Alan Wake. And eventually they did release a physical version, but it's okay. Just get a digital version if that's all they got.
Sorry, I'm muted. Agreed. I get it. If you want to be, it's just, you're going to start sealing yourself off from more and more products that way.
Yeah.
And that's been true since the beginning of the PS4 era, really. So yeah. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do. Do what you want. I am surprised. What do you think? What do you think's behind it? Do you think that it's like a step too far for them? Do they think their audience is going to respond badly? Like, I just don't understand. Like, it's already done. Like, you might as well just pursue making a few 100,000 copies of this on disc and selling it. I don't really get it.
Yeah, it's a good question. Because they've done it. I know they did one for Sea of Thieves. I'm not sure about.
I think Hi-Fi Rush got one, right? And Pentiment, and I don't know. Very strange.
It reads to me just leaving a lot of money on the table. Like just having it there. Obviously physical is diminishing. No one is denying that, but having the retail presence, people going in, wanting to buy a game, looking around, it still exists. Lots of copies sold that way.
It's also very high margin. I understand that it's higher. Let me think about this. I feel like it's higher margin, depending, I guess, if you have a special edition or not, to do a physical version. If it's a first party product. For Microsoft, it is, obviously. I don't know. It's strange. It might have something to do with tariffs as well. But I think Indiana Jones is getting a physical edition. Although that's coming sooner. But only by a couple of weeks.
But that might be just more of like a Bethesda movie thing, right?
Yeah, potentially. And this is what I wanted to ask you guys about all these stories, by the way. And Chris, we can go to you about this. Is like, Microsoft really seems to be flooding the zone. Just not even on PlayStation, but just generally, they're just releasing a shit ton of games. Feels like they need to manage their portfolio a little better than this. To have potentially Indiana Jones on top of Oblivion, on top of Forza, on top of Doom. It's like, seems like a lot. I wonder what their intention is here.
Sorry, quick correction. They are not. There's no Sea of Thieves physical release.
Oh, okay. There was a physical release for Pentiment, I want to say. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm looking to see which ones they've done.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Was that
Go
on
ahead.
Switch though? Maybe was that was Pentiment was on Switch, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I it's such a typical Microsoft thing to be handed a layup and then fuck it up somehow. To just like, oh yeah, we won't have a physical. Like, why would you not? For Forza, especially for like I could almost understand. Like, yeah, okay, Sea of Thieves. That's like it's a popular game, but like it's it's a relatively new product. Even something like Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, where I look at it and I'm just like, all right, well, those are smaller games. But I would say like, dude, your Fable, your Forza, your Halo, your Gears, you're not gonna have physical. Like that's just stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
I think like you're just wasting so much. Like on PlayStation 5, like would I buy the Master Chief Collection digitally? I don't actually think so because I have it on Steam, I have it on Xbox. Like there's no real point. I would absolutely buy it on disc. Just for the sheer, just that's insane. And maybe that's like that's probably like in all likelihood a very, very small percentage of people, but I just I feel like you're just leaving a lot of money on the table like that, and it really is just such a fumble for no reason. I don't get it.
Dustin, anything to add?
Yeah. Pentiment did get a physical release through Limited Run Games.
Right.
And they, as of May 9th, 2024, okay, this is an old article. They said that Hi-Fi Rush is getting a physical edition by Limited Run, but it has never happened.
Materialized. Yeah.
It's never materialized at this point. So I don't know. I really thought to see if these had some kind of physical edition on PS5. I can't find it, so apparently I was totally wrong about that. So
yeah, I wonder what their intention is with this. Like,
someone's gonna write in. By the way, someone's gonna write in like Dustin was wrong about Dustin was wrong about the Sea of Thieves physical release.
Yeah,
yeah, they didn't listen.
Just writing in a correction. Sea of Thieves actually didn't get because once you write your correction, you hit stop and don't listen to any more of the podcast ever after that. Yeah. Yeah, I would love to know their strategy behind that. Because they must have. If you're going to sell a couple or a couple million copies of Forza Horizon 5, let's just say, I don't know how many copies it's going to sell, but ultimately, it's fair to say a few 100,000 will be physical or would be. So it's definitely worth it. But I guess what maybe they're looking at is like marginally, if you're releasing, I guess, standard editions, you get a little less money, and maybe they're just trying to drive people towards digital sales. I don't know. At like $10, I mean, the unit price for how much they're making is probably way lower than even $10 a unit. But I guess that is extra money that you have to just process and put into that, and they're not used to doing that anymore. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on all these different things as they develop. All right, I saw this news and I thought it was really surprising. It was being circulated first as a new game, but it's really not. It's a standalone expansion. But RoboCop Rogue City is getting a standalone expansion this summer from developer Teon, publisher Nacon. So coming to PlayStation 5. RoboCop Rogue City, of course, came to PlayStation 5 in late 2023 and was surprisingly good. And whenever I read about Teon, I always go to their Wikipedia page and I look at they made a shit ton of games. They're a Polish team. And if you scroll through all the games they've made, it's a bunch of nonsense. Like, and then finally you get to the bottom and they start making, it's like, wow, these guys really matured and came into some other things. Because they also did that fairly well-regarded Terminator Resistance game as well, which I think came out in 2019. So anyway, RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business coming to PS5 this summer, according to website Gamatsu. It says, quote, RoboCop is back on duty to settle unfinished business. RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business is a new standalone adventure of RoboCop Rogue City. Omni Tower is their fortress, violence their language, face elite mercenaries all the way to the top of the tower, and enforce the law amidst the chaos. So it seems like some sort of, like you're climbing up different levels of the tower, and it's a little bit stage-based, it looks like. So that's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to this. I don't think that RoboCop Rogue City was like the best game in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but it was surprisingly good. Like really good. I loved it. It felt, because I had just watched RoboCop again right before it came out, and I was like, damn, this is really well done. Like a really, really well done thing. So I'm looking forward to that. Did either of you guys play RoboCop Rogue City? Probably not, I would assume.
No.
I have not seen RoboCop movie.
Oh, really?
So, no. I thought it was just on sale on PlayStation for like $10, but I think it's Maybe it was and it isn't anymore. It's $10 on Steam, but unfortunately not on PlayStation.
Yeah, that's a game that struck me as like you really have to have an affinity for that source material to really get your dollar value out of it. I think it probably isn't like bad by any means, but it's definitely enhanced by caring a lot. It's a little bit like Hogwarts Legacy, I guess. Although like obviously like a very very different stratosphere of like cost and budget and all sorts of things. But like that's a game that's going to hit different if you're a Harry Potter guy versus like if you're just like looking for a video game. I feel like it's entirely serviceable and fine and good, but like that extra layer of familiarity is definitely going to elevate it. And I haven't seen RoboCop in a long fucking time.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild movie.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. All right, so shout out to RoboCop Rogue City. If you haven't played it, maybe you want to check it out. The expansion, Unfinished Business, this summer on PS5. This comes from Video Games Chronicle, and I thought this was interesting because it's we're really around. I think Chrono Trigger's 30th anniversary was technically the 11th, and we're recording this on the 13th, but it came out in the West in August that summer, like late that summer in '95. It says here on Video Games Chronicle, as iconic RPG Chrono Trigger turns 30, Square Enix promises commemorative projects. It says Square Enix has said that it has plans to release various projects related to Chrono Trigger to celebrate the game's anniversary. However, I wouldn't be too excited about this because this is what Square Enix actually says, quote, as we mark the 30th anniversary, we will be launching various projects that go beyond the world of the game over the next year to express our gratitude to everyone who has played Chrono Trigger so far. So please look forward to it. End quote. As I said, Chrono Trigger was a phenomenon on SNES coming out in 1995. Though we look at Final Fantasy VII 2 years later as like really that seminal crossover role-playing game that got people into JRPGs more publicly, I had people in my life that were like familiar with and interested in Chrono Trigger that wouldn't have otherwise really been interested in games. I really like Chrono Trigger. I've said before that I think it's a little overrated in my opinion. People talk at it as like one of the very best. I don't agree that it's on that level, but it's a great game and an iconic Squaresoft level or Squaresoft era game. That was followed by a sequel. And what's interesting and what's annoying, so this is what's annoying, is that it's not available really to play on modern hardware for us anyway. Magro Crag wrote in and said, hey, sloppy slits. Oop. Sorry. Oh, you didn't like that? Sorry. This one is that with Micah a gasp.
A visceral reaction from Micah across the house.
This one is more for the weebs. This week is Chrono Trigger's 30th anniversary, and Square Enix on brand have said that they will celebrate by launching various projects that go beyond the world of the game. This sounds like everything but what we actually want, a way to play it on a modern console. Colin, I know you are not the biggest fan, but it's objectively a quality JRPG worthy of a 2D HD remake. I would have thought after the success of Dragon Quest III that it was a shoo-in for a re-release, but after this announcement, now I'm not so sure. They can't be this dumb, can they? Maybe. Maybe they can be this dumb. I think you can look at this through different lenses. Like Chrono Trigger is a somewhat minor game still, but I think they've kept it that way by not making it widely available. Like the best way to play Chrono Trigger is still the 2008 release on DS. That's a really good, solid release of the game, and probably the most accessible. If you have SNES, you can still play it there. You can obviously emulate it too. The PS1 version is really bad, notoriously bad. It was one of the first games I have ever encountered actually in my life where, as a young kid, it came out the summer of 2001, and it was with Final Fantasy IV in a compilation. And I've explained this to you guys before that it's so bad that it would take like several seconds for you to get to your menu when you would go to the menu. And it was just really not running right on PS1 to the point where you had to kind of like, if you were smart, you would plan out everything you needed to do in the menu all at once and all of the rest because it would just be so annoying going back in it. It just didn't run properly. And then other than the DS version of the game, they've really never re-released it. It is available on phones, like on tablets and shit, but not widely available otherwise. And there's a Windows version, I guess, from the mid 2000 teens as well. But on console, it's just not playable. And I don't really understand, apart from maybe Virtual Console-esque Nintendo shit, why they don't make it just available. So you're talking about the 2D HD remake. It's like, just get the game out. I don't even care about the 2D HD remake. Now, it's clear that the 2D HD remake stuff is taking a lot longer. Remember, it took 3 years from announcing Dragon Quest III 2D HD to it actually coming out. So imagine how long it was in development before that. And so I think that's probably a slow burn, but you think that they were planning, right? They would have had something available like that for this year. Maybe they're feinting. I mean, FEINTING, and they're pretending that they have nothing for now, and maybe they do, but I doubt that that's probably true. I just want the game. I would love to go back and play it. I haven't played Chrono Trigger since 2008, 2009 when it came to DS. So, and I just want to be clear, because you said, I'm not the biggest fan. I am a fan. I just don't think it's like the best role-playing game ever, which a lot of people do. So that's my only problem here. So anyway, I don't know what we're going to do for Chrono Trigger's 30th birthday. What do you think, Dustin?
Yeah. I wonder if they are, like you're saying, kind of playing it cool right now, because they could port it, I think, pretty easily. The Steam version, which I'm seeing the release date is 2018. I don't know if that's an updated version. When I was playing it, that's what I was playing, and it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. I'm seeing some reviews on Steam saying it's a little buggy, and I noticed that as well. But overall, a lot of the work for them is done. Would just be porting that over. But if they have, or at least either have or are aspiring to do something bigger, they might not want to water it down with a port now. They might want to blow their load on a bunch of things, whether it's a new Chrono Trigger game, an HD 2D remaster or something like that. Personally, I think just give this game the pixel remaster treatment. Chrono Trigger pixel remaster. That'd be great, but I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's weird to release Chrono Cross and not Chrono Trigger. Like, Chrono Cross is a sequel. It's like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's why I haven't really been interested in playing Chrono Cross, because it's like, I would like to play them both back to back again. It's been a long time, especially Chrono Cross. I've not played since probably 25 years. And I didn't really even like it very much. Or that's what I remember. There were a lot of weird role-playing games at that time, the turn of the century. Anyway, Chris, you've never played Chrono Trigger. Are you curious about Chrono Trigger, though? It is an iconic style game.
Once it becomes convenient to access, I'll definitely give it a go. But like you said, just the availability of it. I think I have the PC version, because I think I bought it a long time ago. But like it's not ideal in my from what my memory of it is. It was kind of like awkward and weird. Like I didn't really like it. But if it's available, if you throw that on PlayStation Classics, I'll play it. I'll at least give it a shot. But like, it's just like the lack of availability has really like killed my interest in even checking it out, really.
Fair enough. Final piece of small news, my friends. Split Fiction. So we originally had this in as selling 1 million copies in 2 days. It's now up to 2 million copies in a week. So congratulations to Hazelight for great success. At 2 million at 1 million in 2 days, it was their fastest selling game. And I think that it's still keeping pace now with 2 million sold. That's an amazing, what is it, 30 or 40 bucks? Something like that? Or is it more?
50.
50 bucks. Wow, good for them. So $200 million gross revenue, 125, 130 after splits. So certainly still very profitable. And I'm sure EA has signed them for their next game already. So congratulations to them. All right, let's get into what we're playing. And then we can get into the news. I'll just start and go real quick. I've been waiting. So the next game that's coming out that I'm actually interested in is Atomfall, and that comes out in a couple of weeks. And I think that game looks really cool. It's the Rebellion first-person shooter that takes place in like a post-nuclear disaster UK in like the 50s or 60s. It looks really cool. I'm excited to play it. But I'm waiting and I'm looking at what I'm playing. So that's why I was getting into PowerWash Simulator DLC and kind of dicking around with this, that, and the other thing. And I was just looking at my trophies and I'm like, you know what? I kind of just abandoned Tactics Ogre Reborn when it came out. I played it for 15 hours, maybe not even, when it came out in 2022. And then I moved on. And you guys will remember that was when the crush of Square Enix games came out, like for no reason, where it was like 20 games in 2 months or something. And so ActRaiser came out at that point, which I really loved. ActRaiser Renaissance or Resurrected or whatever the fuck it was called. And Crisis Core came out a little bit later and some other things. So I was distracted. But I liked it. And I didn't abandon it for reasons of not really enjoying it. It just wasn't speaking to me enough to keep me as other things were kind of piling up. So I went back and downloaded it and I deleted my saves and just restarted. And I've played probably 20 hours now. And I'm in chapter 2. I think there are 4 chapters in the game. And I'm really enjoying it. It's not, I went into this on Summon Sign a little bit. It's not as strong as Final Fantasy Tactics. It's not as colorful and as fun It's very drab. It's very dark, which is cool. It's serious. It's like very geopolitical, lots of death and betrayal. So it's neat. And it's not unlike Tactics in that regard either, but it's basically the progenitor of Final Fantasy Tactics. This was originally a Super Famicom game that was then made into a PS1 game that was made into a PSP game that was made now into this. And I recommend it to people that like turn-based, grid-based strategy role-playing games. I just think it's a little more straightforward than I'd like it to be. Like, the class system's a little more stymied. I'm not crazy about some of the things that go on in it. I don't know. So it's cool. And I'm gonna see it through, but I wouldn't recommend it as much as Tactics. It makes me want to, or Final Fantasy Tactics, it makes me really long for that inevitable whatever they're going to release for, because I think it's going to be so great. But in the meantime, I'm playing Tactics Ogre Reborn. I assume I'll be playing it for the next week as well. So that's where I'll leave it for now. Chris, we had brought this up earlier, but you're playing PowerWash Simulator and Monster Hunter Wild. So yeah, what's going on with you with these?
Yeah, so obviously, I don't know. I jumped into PowerWash Simulator mainly because I felt like nothing was really hitting. I don't know. Like, I was looking around my backlog, and I was looking around at some of the games that I wanted to play. And there are certain games that I definitely want to get to, Split Fiction being chief among them. But I don't really have that's a co-op game. It's like it kind of revolves around other people's schedules. So it's kind of, I don't really have the time at the moment to really get into it into the way that I would like. So I'm putting that off a little bit. I played a little bit of Monster Hunter Wilds, and I spent a good amount of time trying to learn the ropes of this thing. And I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just like the attitude that I was in when I like started it or whatever, but like it's not clicking with me at all. Like, the buttons aren't clicking with me at all. The way the game feel of it feels clunky and strange. Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely got to give it more time, I think, but it just wasn't working for me. It wasn't giving me anything. And I was like, well, what's something that I can jump into? Like, I want to play something, but nothing's really hitting. And then I saw PowerWash Simulator sitting in my what do you call it? Your collections or whatever the hell it's called on PlayStation. I can't remember exactly. Just the library. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me re-download that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thoroughly kind of just enjoying it. It's like just like a Zen kind of thing. It almost feels like a palate cleanser in some way. From some of the other stuff, some of the more action oriented things that like I think are chiefly the things that I would normally go for. And so I'm just kind of enjoying that, but it's a pretty chill kind of Zen experience. I really want to, I don't know. There's something going on right now where I'm not into, like, nothing's grabbing me at all. And I don't really know what it is.
A malaise.
And yeah, it's like a malaise or something. But I want to get into Monster Hunter Wilds. I have a bunch of friends who've been like begging me to like get on. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't really get into World or whatever. And they were like, no, I didn't either. But like, I'm into this one. And I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna give it some more genuine shots once I'm done with some PowerWash Simulator and I'm more like evened out or something. But that's kind of what my gaming habits have been for like the last like week. I think it's honestly just because like being sick really like threw me off because I just didn't want to play anything at all. And then I really kind of couldn't, because even just like sitting up on a couch was like fucking belaboring. So I think I'm just like reacclimating to just feeling normal and trying to get, it's like, okay, well, what am I in the mood to play? And PowerWash Simulator is hitting right now for some reason. I don't know why. But that's pretty much the extent. I've only put like maybe like 4 hours into Monster Hunter Wild, so it's not a crazy amount of time. And a lot of it really is just like learning how to like move around and like how to fight and like navigate menus and shit. So not a lot of it is particularly like enthralling game time. But I do want to get back into it and get some more games in.
What about you, Dustin?
Yeah, I have a bunch of different games that I've been checking out here. One that I mostly forgot last week, though I'm still playing, it's a game called Repo, which is a game currently just on Steam. This is in the category, people are calling it lethal likes now, because we've run out of things to describe games. But I make sense. I get it. It is a Lethal Company-like game where you and some friends go into a spooky place and try to gather different things in order to escape, get out. This one's cute though. It's much cuter actually overall. You play as these cute little robots that have these big eyes that when you look around, they kind of, dart all over the place. And there's all these different things in it that make it extra silly. One of the main features is that it's very physics based. So you pick up like a plate or something and then you're carrying it to this cart that you have. But if you accidentally hit it into something, it might break. So you'll have like someone's like carrying a really expensive diamond and someone runs through and just completely smashes it. And you're like, well, fuck, that was $3,000 down the drain. So that's really annoying, but it makes it fun. The different physics.
Yeah, this looks cute. I'm
aspects.
watching a trailer on Steam right now.
Yeah, it does other cute things too, where certain objects you pick up will affect your character in different ways. There's one that's some kind of, I think it's like an hourglass. And it's like a magic hourglass. When you pick it up, you move slow motion. And this is one of those games, like Lethal Company, you got to use the in-game voice chat. And it slows your voice down for everyone else. So you're like, it's great. There's also weird things where, like, there's like a love potion. If you pick it up, it'll start typing things for you automatically in the chat about other players in the game. So there's all these fun little silly things in it. But one of the things I probably appreciate about it the most is that a lot of times with these games, you're sneaking around and there's these different monsters that appear. And the biggest problem I have with Lethal Company is that it's a high likelihood that if you see one of these things, you're done. You might be able to get away, but a lot of times they'll just kill you. And this game's a lot more forgiving in that way, in that you can buy weapons to kill them. It's still very difficult, but it's possible. And you're able to hide from them a lot easier. So we're finding that we're progressing a lot easier through different runs. And it's just a silly game to play with the boys. So I highly recommend it. And Colin, I know you had to write in, but you deleted it, but it's worth pointing out.
Oh yeah, I do. Well, I thought I didn't read it fully, and I was reading it, and I was like, it doesn't really have to do with the game itself. So but go ahead. It's
an important PSA. On PlayStation, I don't think it's out yet. There's a game that was listed called Repo Horror.
Yeah. There, I put it back for you. Corey Hahn. I'll write it. Corey Hahn wrote it and said,
hey, this is important.
Hey, CDC, one of the most popular games on Steam right now is Repo. The game has 20,000 reviews and an overall overwhelmingly positive designation since launch on February 26th. When I checked PSN today, Repo Horror was listed under the trending section. I contacted the developer through Steam to confirm whether this was the PlayStation port of their hit game and learned that it's a clone. With the rise of AI slop and cheap imitations of popular games, who is responsible to remedy this nightmare? Is it fully incumbent on PlayStation to address this, or do publishers and developers have some culpability? Would love to hear your thoughts on something that is definitely ruining the ecosystem. I mean, I don't know how much more I can say about this, but I want. What do you have to say about it? Yeah.
Sony, as we've mentioned many times, we know you're listening. This is fucking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I can't believe we continue to talk about it. And the PSN is fucking turning into Temu of games. That is like, dude, this is blatantly stealing someone's work. Blatantly. And it is designed to trick people into thinking that it's another game. It's wrong. It is straight up wrong. And you're doing nothing about it.
It's not that they're not passive participants. They're facilitating it. You don't
just profiting off of it.
You don't just put games on PlayStation any more than you walk into a Walmart and put a fucking game, put a tchotchke on the shelf to sell. It's not how it works. You have to provide dev kits and test kits. You have to join the PlayStation Partner Program. You have to pitch your game. It has to pass certification and be published. It doesn't just happen.
It's ridiculous.
That's what's so fucking embarrassing about it. It's crazy. They're facilitating it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
It just continues to happen. Where I think they might have removed it, but there was a mouthwashing clone that was going to come out. That's, it's just like whatever the popular game on Steam is, someone's going to go make a cheap copy and put it on PlayStation. And maybe it'll get released and trick potentially thousands of people into spending money on trash. And it's really not okay. Do something about it. Sort it out. Yeah. Seriously. So yeah, Repo, really good. Not available on PlayStation yet. No matter. but I'm hopefully at some point will be really fun. The other games I'm playing, Monster Hunter Wilds, finished up the campaign, which is weird because the credits roll on chapter 3, but there's still 3 more chapters after that. So I'm done with all of the chapters now. I'm really at the end game. Absolutely loved it. Really fun time. I recommend our spoiler cast for more in-depth thoughts. That's coming out on Saturday, so I'll leave that there. Then these two are important. Pushmo on 3DS. Colin, do you know this game? Have you heard of this game?
Yeah, I've heard of this game. Yeah.
Pushmo, you want to buy it? You want to go get it? You can't. Fuck you. That's what Nintendo says. If you want this game, you're going to have to hack your 3DS, and you're going to have to pirate it. Whether that's morally okay with you or not, that's up to you. I went and I downloaded it, and let me tell you, this game fucking rules. It is a platformer puzzle game where you play as this little sumo guy, and you go and you have to push and move these blocks in order to get to the top to rescue a little baby sumo guy. And I am addicted to this game. I play it every day. And what's funny is the beginning is really simple and kind of annoying because it's really tutorialized. You want to make sure the kids can play it. Fast forward a few hours later, I'm using 120% of my brain power just to survive. Not to survive, but to complete levels in this game. If you like puzzle games, this one is seriously incredible. I missed it years ago, and I want to recommend everyone to get a copy, but I can't. So do as you will for Pushmo, but I just can't believe how awesome this game is. There's been sequels. I know there's Crashmo. I think there was a third one on 3DS and a Wii U game, and now it's been completely abandoned.
Yeah, it's Intelligent Systems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that they would just eradicate their games from existence.
So this game is super fun. I highly recommend it. And I've seen people talk about it over the last few years, but never checked it out. Now I've played it. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. I love this game. So check out Pushmo at some point. It's really fun.
It's really cute. It's really cute looking.
It is super cute. Like I said, it's a little sumo guy. He's trying to save the children in Pushmo Park. A lot of lore going on here. There's an old man that builds these death traps that children get stuck in, who seems to, feel no guilt. He even's like, oh, if you can't save the kid, just come back later. I'm like, dude, he's stuck there. You just tell me to come back later? What's going on here in the world of Pushmo? But really, really love it.
You'll want to know.
Last but not least, Split Fiction. I've been playing this pretty heavily with Holly. We've been playing the split screen mode on this game. We played It Takes Two, really liked it, so we knew we had to jump into this one. Overall, really good. I think so far, I honestly don't know how far into the game that I am. Many hours at this point. It's surprisingly, I think it's like 12 hours long. So we're at least halfway through. And I think so far, I think that I really like it, but not as much as a 90 on Metacritic. I'm not that into it yet. The concept of the story is really, really cool. Colin, I think you in particular, oddly enough, would love the story and what's happening.
Yeah, I like the premise a lot. I think it's really
it's clearly a game that's about AI and the thievery that takes place with AI. And there's a lot of cool, neat ideas. This game is constantly making references in a way that I think is classy to other games, whether it's through short little nods or different gameplay things that you do. I kind of find the two main characters a little annoying, which was also the case in It Takes Two, where they're just... I understand it's part of the character development, but they're just kind of annoying to be around, complaining, wet blankets about everything. It's getting better as the game goes on, but some of the writing feels a little millennial cringy in some ways. But it's cool to see what they've done. It's clearly bigger budget in a lot of ways than It Takes Two. The game looks beautiful and runs really well. The one last thing I'll say about it is just be careful who you play this game with, because it is more difficult than It Takes Two. And we're progressing just fine. There are definitely more points in this game, though, where Holly, who is a seasoned gamer, particularly with RPG and strategy games, she's having a hard time. with some parts of the platforming and various different mechanics they throw at you. So if you're playing this with your girlfriend or wife or your kid or whatever that is maybe not super proficient, you're probably going to have a rough time, more so than It Takes Two. So keep that in mind. But we'll probably do a spoiler cast on this game at some point. I know a lot of the team is playing it, but no one has quite finished it yet. So, but yeah, I recommend it. It's been a really fun time. I'll talk about Suikoden remasters next week. I've put 30 minutes into it, but as you can see, I'm playing so many.
Are you playing one or two?
I started one.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if that was the right decision because I played one recently enough that I don't feel gravitated to play it. Also, not super keen on the art style of the remaster.
Yeah.
Like they remaster it. All the sprites are the same, but the backgrounds are all redone.
I thought that was the case because I was looking at it and I'm like, this is not. There was a trailer, I guess a launch trailer that I saw. It was on PSN actually, and I was like, this is not the way I remember the game looking. Like, but I couldn't put my finger. I guess it just looks too good.
The backgrounds are all. They look very digital 3D art.
Yeah.
And I don't really like that. I saw someone online say that Suikoden 2 is visually much better than 1, which would make sense. They'd put more time and effort into that game than the first one. I haven't even booted that one up yet, so I can't speak to that. But hopefully I'll get into that in the next week.
Cool. Lunar's coming soon, I think, as well.
Yeah.
That might be in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be all over that. All right. Well, that's what we're playing. All right, my friends, let's get into the news. We'll begin with the big one this week. It's finally time. Number 1. And by the way, at this point, also, Silent Hill F, maybe we'll come in and talk about this. It's supposed to be revealed after we stop recording today. I don't think it's going to be that compelling where we're going to need to do a pickup for it. We'll just probably talk about it next week. So just letting you know. But number 1, as rightly assumed, the recent Death Stranding 2 panel at South by Southwest did indeed contain not only a new 10-minute trailer for the upcoming PS5 title, but a release date for the game as well. And it's coming a lot sooner than many may have assumed. Death Stranding 2 launches on PlayStation 5 on June 26th. A sequel to 2019's Death Stranding from director, producer, and designer Hideo Kojima, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach was first officially revealed near the end of 2022, though rumors of it had circulated going back to 2020, when the actor behind the game's primary protagonist, Norman Reedus, began to tease that he was working on something with Kojima. The original Death Stranding, of course, first came to PS4 back in 2019, with a PC port following the next year, a native PS5 port in 2021, and an Xbox release 5 years to the date of its launch on PlayStation 4. For the time being, Death Stranding 2 is only confirmed for PS5, though a PC release is inevitable at the very least. So anyway, once you watch the trailer, you may be curious what your purchasing options are. The big gun this time around comes in the form of the Death Stranding 2 on the Beach Collector's Edition, retailing for $230 or your local equivalent. This edition comes with a digital download for the game, which likewise allows you access to the title a full 48 hours earlier than launch, beginning June 24th. The physical goods, on the other hand, include a collector's box, a 15-inch statue of in-game character Magellan Man, a 3-inch figure of the in-game character Doll Man, some art cards and a letter from Hideo Kojima, and a ton of in-game items which will be further boosted should you pre-order. The digital deluxe edition, on the other hand, will retail for $80 or your local equivalent and give you access to a download for the game, likewise available 48 hours earlier than the launch beginning June 24th, with some in-game bonuses as well that are augmented by pre-ordering. The core game itself will be available for $70 or your local equivalent, with in-game pre-order bonuses available, though you'll have to wait until launch to play, and pre-orders for all versions of Death Stranding 2 begin on March 17th. In addition to the new 10-minute trailer, a bunch of new screenshots have also been released, as well as news about 2 accompanying options for those looking forward to Death Stranding 2. For starters, a musical tour for Death Stranding will launch in Australia on November 8th with a global tour planned thereafter. And more imminently, a novelization of the game will be released on June 25th, according to website Automaton Media, written by Hattori Nojima and telling the in-game story in novel form. Nojima is a pen name for writer Kenji Yano, who is responsible for the novelizations of multiple Kojima games during his long tenure with Konami, including Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, Metal Gear Solid Substance, and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. He likewise novelized the original Death Stranding. Hideo Kojima, famed industry auteur and creator, is best known for his Metal Gear series, which began back in 1987, and which ran under him through 2015. He also is responsible for some other beloved games and IP as well, including Snatcher, first released in Japan in 1988, Policenauts, first launched in Japan in 1994, and Zone of the Enders, which first arrived on PlayStation 2 in 2001. In addition to Death Stranding, Kojima is working on a game and movie crossover project with PlayStation and Sony Pictures called Fizzant, first revealed a couple of years ago, along with a project called OD, which he's developing with Xbox. My friends, what are our thoughts? Chris, let's go to you first. Death Stranding 2. Did you watch the trailer?
I skimmed it.
Yeah.
I skimmed. I felt, and this is like we've said this before, but like I'm trying to be as media blackout as I can be with this game, because I just feel like it's just such a weird. I feel like I've seen too much already in some sense. So I was curious enough to check it out, but not so curious that I sat through the entire 10 minutes. But I'm all in, man. Like I was all in on Death Stranding 2 from the get-go. I didn't really need much more convincing than I've already received. So like I'm in as is, but there were some things that were just unavoidable not to see. There's specifically a character that's a bit of a nod to the past, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, sure.
That was unavoidable not to see. Like that was all over social media basically. So like it was impossible not to see more of it. But I'm excited, man. I'm all in with Death Stranding 2. I don't know how I feel about the collector's edition exactly. But I'm in on day one with it. This might actually get the what is it, the 48-hour pre-order for me, honestly. They might have got me with this one.
Jamie Hexam wrote in and said, "Hey boys, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach finally got its release date this past Sunday at its South by Southwest panel. It's slated to hit June 26th with both the Collector's Edition and Digital Deluxe Edition offering 48-hour early access to the game. Are you three finally going to get got? Thanks for all you do." Well, Dustin's been got recently, I think, right, with Civ 7.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I've not been got ever with early access, I don't think. But yeah, I'm going to get got for this for sure. No doubt. I'll get the whole special edition, not the collector's edition, but the edition, like the $80 version.
Yeah,
I'll definitely be happy to do that. Take my $80. That's a small price to pay for Death Stranding 2, in my opinion. And I mean that figuratively. I know it's a real price to pay. It's what we pay for games, but I'm so excited for it. I have a lot to say. I'm curious. Let's get you on the record over here, Dustin. What are your initial thoughts? Did you watch the 10-minute? It's 10 minutes and 1 second on PlayStation's YouTube channel. The trailer, pre-order trailer. You can go check it out. Has 1.4 million views at the time we're recording. Looks fucking awesome.
10 minutes and 10 minutes and 1 second. They're trying to get that ad rev.
Yeah. Sons of bitches.
I watched the trailer. I only watched it once, and I wasn't pausing or anything. I kind of just wanted to watch it, see it, and then move on. That was kind of my happy medium, and looks great. It's classic Kojima. You watch the trailer, you say, what the fuck afterwards, but at the same time, very intriguing, very exciting as well. So I'm definitely in for this one. Day one. It is tough because the early access is digital only. So I have to make a choice here. Whether I want the early access and buy the game, what I could do, I've done this in the past where I could buy it digitally and then someday down the line, I'll be able to pick up a physical copy for $10 if I want it for my collection or something.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, of course that makes it. It's interesting because the collector's edition comes with the code that will get you the game early. By the way, I want to speak on this because I think we had some people write in about this. Sorry, just give me a second.
Is it Queefer?
Oh, yeah, Queefer Sutherland. Thank you. Said, "Hey, CDC. Death Stranding 2's collector's edition just dropped, and one thing that sticks out, no steelbook. Physical discs are disappearing, and now this. If I'm a paying premium for a collector's edition, a disc and a steelbook should be a given. Thoughts?" And then there's another one, though, that so the best Patreon member east of the Mississippi says, "Hey, CDC. I love collector's editions for franchises that mean a lot to me, so Death Stranding 2 CE is going to be an easy pickup for me, even if we are only getting 3 inches of Dollman after Sony stretched me out with 19 inches of Venom. Size matters. Where I probably differ from other collectors is that I want a digital code every time. I have no attachment to a disc. Just give me the easiest and most convenient way to access my games. Am I in a very niche sliver of the market? I saw plenty of discourse saying no disc means no buy, and I just can't imagine that deterring me. Thanks." We've talked about this in the past where I'm actually more inclined to get collector's editions that don't come with the physical version because I don't really want them. And I think that it opens up people that are willing to spend to get that sort of thing. But I think that and we must have talked about this in the past, but I think people are missing the key component of why this is happening. which is not that they don't want to give you the game, but just that it's not going to be printed in time. And the collector's editions are probably literally even done at this point. The game's going to be printed probably a few weeks or a month at the most before the game launches, depending on when they go gold. It could be even shorter than that. And so I think it really is like a problem where it's like we can't include the physical edition in the collector's edition unless you're willing to get the collector's edition the next month after the game comes out or something like that, and then we can pack them all in. So I really think that they know that it's weird. I just think that this is like them saying, and it would be nice if they just said that, or give people the option and say like, we'll have a physical edition and we'll get it to you weeks early. You'll get your code, put it into the PSN. You'll have 48 hours early access, or we will ship your physical edition after the game comes out. So I know it's not ideal, but I get it, because they're probably not going to go gold until May. And then you have these collector's editions already on ships from China coming over at that point. So I'm surprised I don't see anyone talking about that, because that seems fairly obvious to me why this is happening.
Right.
At this point, games used to be printed and done way earlier, and we all fundamentally know that. Now it's like real close to the best as far as how quickly you get them out.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. Yeah. I was looking that Dragon Age the Veilguard made a collector's edition without the game. And it's funny, there's articles from Kotaku and The Gamer about how developers need to stop making collector's edition without the game. And I get it. Surface value, you're like, oh, it's collector's edition, they don't include the game? What the fuck? You know, like is it even an edition of the game? But they are
including the game. You know, that's the thing, is that the game isn't it? It's just a code.
No. This is just all the extras that come with a special edition without the game.
Oh.
And like I said, on a surface, this sounds dumb, but I kind of like the idea that it's with the physical versus digital. It's like, do you want all this extra shit? Here, buy this. And then you have, as a consumer, can either choose to pre-order whatever digital version you want, or pre-order a physical copy that'll show up at your door.
Wait, but it says here on PlayStation Blog, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach Collector's Edition.
I'm just saying in the past this has happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not for this game.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, it says full game. I just want to be clear. Full game digital download for this. 48-hour early access to the game, which means you're going to get this thing early.
Right.
Well, so that's the whole point. It's like, it's not going to be, it's not possible to do that with physical games. And so you have to kind of like pick or choose one or the other at this point, in my opinion. Yeah, I think I agree with you, because I think Wolfenstein might have been one of those where it was like, it didn't come with the game. That's weird. I agree with that. But people being put off that it comes with a digital voucher, I think is strange, because most people want that.
Right.
Maybe most people that buy collector's editions don't want that but I wouldn't make the assumption that someone wouldn't want the Magellan Man statue, but wouldn't also like that there's a major Venn diagram crossover between the person who wants the Magellan Man statue and needs a physical version of the game. There are plenty of people that want the statue with the digital version.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are missing the forest for the trees and actually not realizing that.
Yeah. I would even say you're probably when I think about it, I'm really paying for all the random shit that is in the collector's edition more than I'm paying for the game, really. Because I could just buy the game at any point. Like, there's really no limit on that. There's no it's here and then it's gone the next day. Collector's editions are like by nature like very, very limited, or at least like more limited than like a standard SKU of a video game. So for me, even back when that stuff was happening with like the collector's edition doesn't come with the game, I did think that was weird. But at the same time, I also kind of felt like, well, I'm not really buying the game when I buy this. Like I want the statue or the weird thing that that's going to be a bitch to hunt down 10 years from now, you know, more than I want the game, because I could just download the game at a certain point. But I understand, like, from a base like cost perspective, where it's just like, well, come on, give me the game. Right. What are you doing? Yeah.
I think for Hogwarts Legacy, they did physically release the early access physical version in stores, because I remember trying to go get it, but because that game was a million times bigger than they expected, nowhere had it. So, it in theory could be possible, but it's probably not worth it in a lot of cases, especially when you're doing a giant physical special edition that has a bunch of extra stuff in it. But so yeah, I'll have to make a decision on what I'm going to do later on.
I'm looking at the trailer again. So I'll speak about it a little bit. As I watched like half of it and like fully, and then I was like, just feel like you're showing so much. And I started just kind of scrubbing through it. I did get to the point where they show like all the characters, which are so cool. I mean, the game is fucking dope looking. There's a scene at 146 in the trailer. People can go look if they want of a shot of the beach with like all these dead whales and sea life on it. And then all the computer servers in the water. And like the weird Death Stranding, like weird ghastly figures like in circles in the sky. I'm like, this is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
The language here is gray and cryptic and scary and unsettling and strange. No one does it like him, man. And knowing that he edits this shit himself is funny to me.
Yeah.
Like knowing that he's the one going through all this stuff and like finding the perfect clips to show you what he wants you to see is dope. And the characters are just, dude, that red, did you get far enough to see the red samurai character?
Me? No, I didn't see that.
Oh my God, dude. I was like, these characters are so fun. Why do you come up with these? How do you come up with these amazing over and over again? Over and over and over and over and over again. These amazing, weird fucking characters. He's just a master. I can't wait, dude. I can't wait. Did you see the weird, the black woman that's in every game? What's her name?
Oh, Deborah Wilson. I did see
Deborah
that.
Wilson.
Yeah.
People
that character where she has two right hands.
Oh, ew! I didn't notice that out of the.
Yeah, she like holds up her hands and they're both right hands, so it looks like this.
Oh, that's upset. That's really upsetting.
And her name's Dr. Hartman's back. Dude Higgs with serious Kefka vibes. Yeah, I can't wait. The red samurai character though is fucking dope. I'm like, oh my God. And of course, like you said, we'll just say it is like there's a character that obviously invokes Snake.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting. And I love that. And I love I love the depth of, I can't wait to replay the game, the first one.
Yeah, it's sitting in my it's sitting on my cross media bar right now, kind of taunting me. Because I know I'm going to want to play it at some point in the next like couple weeks. And so it's sitting there waiting, but I'm really excited. I never played through the director's cut either. Like there's like a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff in that director's cut, presumably that like is gonna be completely new to me. So I'm really stoked about this game. I don't want to see any more of it. You know, like I'm really excited to see like whatever it is you're talking about. I'm really happy that I don't know what it looks like because I really do want to. It'd be so cool to just see it diegetically.
Yeah, there's another character, Tarman. He has like some sort of like weird tar cat with wings. Mm-hmm. Oh my God!
He was in the first trailer, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah.
That's George. That's what is it?
George Miller.
George Miller, yeah. Frank Miller is not. That's the Batman guy, I think.
Tomorrow, that's Elle Fanning. We knew she was in it. I like the names. Dollman, we knew about. Rainey is like an Asian character. It's interesting. The President, we know. Lucy. Yeah. All right. So there's a character you guys that might not have seen called Charlie, and this was pretty insightful. Did you guys see anything about this character in the trailer?
Blocked it out. I mean, I saw it in the trailer. I don't know specifically what you're talking about, though.
Ben Hanna wrote in about this. I'm curious what you think about this. It says, and for you to really get it, you would have to kind of spoil it, I guess, a little bit for yourself, what he looks like. But what's up, guys? Was hoping to get your take on the new Death Stranding 2 trailer, and if you were as blown away as I was. At one point in the trailer, they show the characters with the actors portraying them, except for the character Charlie, which appears to be some sort of robot and has no voice actor listed. Kojima has always innovated with his games. I believe Charlie is voiced by AI and that you will be able to speak with him through your DualSense controller. If you look at the character design for Charlie, he has 7 portholes that look very similar to the speaker holes on the DualSense. Guerrilla Games just had that video leak with the AI Aloy as well. Am I crazy? What do you think? I was like, I didn't pick that up when I first saw it, and then I went and looked at it. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You're actually right. Like, there is something weird about this character, and it does look that the holes on the chest do look like that. Do I have a PS5 controller here anywhere, or even a
PS4? Because they're not on the PS5.
Yeah, I have a PS4 controller. Right. Exactly. Yes. Right. There's something about that. Do you think that seems intentional? No?
It's very possible.
Let me see the holes, Matt.
The holes are not. There's fewer holes on Charlie than there are on the PS4 controller or the PS5 controller.
Yeah.
But look at the way they're lined up. more on the top than the bottom.
Yeah, that looks.
There's something about that. I think that's an interesting insight.
It's an interesting idea. Like, I think if there's anybody that I trust to use AI in a way that's like creatively interesting, it's probably him, honestly. And I do think that idea specifically, the idea of not necessarily like throwing away the concept of like the written word or like throwing away actors or anything like that, but having a facet of your game that is interactable in a way that would be impossible to pre-plan for, like something like an NPC that could respond to you natively and accurately and in real time. You know, you're not going to be able to get an actor to do that. Like that would be like an insane undertaking that would be impossible. And so in those realms where like things are just simply not feasible, I really don't mind AI being explored in that way. And if that's what that is, that's fucking really cool. It's like but that's the kind of thing. It's like I don't want to get excited about a feature that we're just kind of presuming to be. You know what I mean? Like that would be an amazing idea.
Of course.
That would be an amazing idea, and I would be totally into it. And like I said, if there's anybody that I trust to utilize AI well in a creative field in a way that's interesting and thought provoking, it probably is Kojima. But that it is a canny observation, man.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice observation. Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking at the rest of the characters here. Neil is the character that looks like Snake. Yeah. Doctor is Deborah Wilson's character with the two right hands. Fucking creepy as hell. Well, I'm amped. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into a few other items here from that relate to the game. Cypress Davis wrote in and said, "Greetings, CDC. We finally have a release date for Death Stranding 2. Colin, I know you're already sold and aren't wanting to see more at this point. I'm in the same boat. I did happen to hear the new song for it, and Kojima continues to put me on to new music. How are we feeling about the June release date? I think it's smart and it was earlier than I expected. Thanks for all you guys do." Yeah, it is soon. I'm glad. This is ideal. Like 3 months, 3.5 months, 4 months. Yeah, just wait until you're really sure that you're the game's done. And now they're probably polishing and getting a patch ready and all the rest. So I'm amped, man. I knew it was coming this year, but they did date it, but it's great that it's coming so soon. And I hope it's a sign of things to come for future releases where they'll be held closer and then announced. You know, the date will be announced more imminent within a quarter or two. Be nice. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this is great. They'll get it out before GTA 6. And then we can expect Ghosts of Yotei later this year as well. But where are the games? Where are they? I don't know. It's crazy.
It's true.
I can't wait. The fact that it's so soon, it's nice because I think sometimes when you wait for something too long, you start to lose you're tired of being of anticipating.
Oh.
So this is like we've known about this game for a while, so we have been, but now that it's like tangible and it's real, we have a date, it's not that far away, it makes it a little sweeter, a little more exciting.
Yeah, well said. We also have this inquiry I like this inquiry from Parks and Rec. He wrote, "Hello, Sacred Stinkers. Can I just point out as someone who has never played a Kojima game that Death Stranding 2 looks ridiculous beyond belief? I know you are all red-pilled into Kojima-ism, so it doesn't really faze you, but as an outsider looking in, it's like showing Chris Gecko Moria from One Piece and telling him it's the coolest shit ever. He'd never believe you, and I don't know if I can believe this fever dream you all have for Kojima work. Just wanted to point this out, and you all keep up the great work." There's no doubt there's an angle of it to that. Like, you have to buy in some way. And I get that it looks probably pretty strange from the outside, but it's so Parks become more of an insider instead of an outsider and give it a try. The first one, maybe you'll discover what's so special about it.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to say it's not lost on me at all how insane Death Stranding 2. Like, Death Stranding 2 looks ridiculous. Like, I'm very aware of how absurd. And there's a stop motion fucking 3-inch tall doll floating there. Like, there's no amount of inoculation where, like, I played through the entire first Death Stranding and I loved it, but this is significantly stranger than the first Death in my view anyway. Like, based on like what I'm seeing, like there's some stuff in this game that like it feels almost like I would almost feel like this is a jump the shark moment if the original game wasn't already so kind of not as strange, but just it always. The first Death Stranding already kind of feels touch and go with reality in like a subtle way anyway. And so a lot of this is allowed to kind of exist, but it looks insane to me as well. Like, I don't want to dispel the rumor, dispel the, like, or present the image of just like, oh yeah, the stop motion doll, that makes perfect sense with the
lady with two right hands.
Yeah, like, no, it's fucking weird, and that's what is so engaging about it, is that it is so strange, and it is so weird, and it does look so striking, and it looks different. And I want to say too, it's really difficult to make something look different when your baseline is reality. Like, Kojima is like, this isn't like Sunset Overdrive or something. You know what I mean? Where like there's like kind of like an inherent stylization to every fact. Like, this is like real people. And it's a realistic art style, but then on top of it, there's all this like surreality and these like strange ideas and these strange designs and strange architecture and strange premises for characters that are sharing the scene alongside, like, just, oh, that's Norman Reedus. That's Norman Reedus next to a fucking guitar wielding samurai. And that's what makes it so fucking weird and interesting. And I don't know. There's something there that I think you're cheating yourself out of a really interesting experience to not give the first game a go, because it's noticeably less crazy than this, I think.
Yeah. I'm appreciate that him calling out that we're red pilled into Kojima-ism. That's the thing. We get labeled as a Last of Us glazing podcast, but no, we are the Kojima Death Stranding glazing podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's the one thing that I think we're all unified on. It might be the only thing.
Yeah.
Of consequence.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think. Well, that's part of my worry, actually, is that, like, because Death Stranding 1, I went into that game expecting to not like it. Which is unfair, of course, but like, I remember specifically being like, this looks like a walking simulator. This is not, like, what do you do? This looks so pretentious. And I fell in love with it like almost immediately, like comically quickly. Like, it was like within like 10 minutes, I was like I was all in on whatever the hell was in front of me. And so this time I do have a worry that, like, man, I have expectations now where, like, I'm really expecting to love this thing. And I really hope I do. I think I will.
Yeah, I think you will.
But, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, there is that level of just like, damn, there's more riding on it for me now than there used to be. And that's a little unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny how much we all love Kojima and how that is like one of the things that bonds us or whatever, because we have such different opinions on so many different games. But I am curious about how people receive it and if people are more willing to give it a go, because I get what he's saying, where it's like it is overtly strange, but also it's like the essence of video games to me. Like what Kojima does is the essence of, or at least a lot of what he does. I don't think I like Zone of the Enders, but I don't think it was like revolutionary or anything. But when you talk about Metal Gear Solid or Death Stranding, it's like this is what games can be if you have something that's very carefully crafted. And it doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be about like Metal Gear with arcane American conspiracy politics and all this. That's cool. That's definitely a huge part of what I love. But it's about everything. That's where the term auteur comes from. It's the kind of person that has an entire feel, look, aesthetic, writing style, approach, like, and it's all identifiable. It's all Kojima.
Yeah.
And obviously he has a huge team of people that work for him, but everyone understands that it's not unlike David Lynch. Right.
Yeah.
And so when I hear people say, it's like, yeah, it's very peculiar. I love, like, someone says, I love video games, but I find it very peculiar. These kinds of games. I'm like, it's interesting. I don't ever want to say what people get into games or not get into games for. It's up to you. But I'm surprised that this kind of shit isn't appealing to almost everyone. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. And Metal Gear Solid was more that style of game, just based on its sales numbers, where it had that mass appeal. Death Stranding is a game you have to try. And we had someone write in. Actually, I didn't put it in here because I didn't think anyone would really be interested, but I guess it's kind of appropriate now. Is the person was saying that they beat Death Stranding recently and went to listen to Chris and Mai's Sacred Symbols Plus episode, which was from 2019, and that we didn't like it as much as we like it now. And I'm like, I don't remember that. Like, I remember not liking the combat and that it forced me to fight at certain times because I played the game non-violently as much as I could. And I remember thinking it was too long, which was probably more of that was when I was moving to Virginia and I was in a really bad fucking place. But I'm like, no, I feel like I was actually much like Chris, where I was actually authentically and radically surprised by how good it was and how something that is so, it's like you're doing what? Like right. You're walking around. This is literally, I mean, it's literally what you do is you walk around carefully with packages for people.
It is arguably the only walking simulator that actually exists.
Right. It is right. Exactly. And it's cool that you get vehicles and ways to make it easier or whatever, but it's all about you being the courier of personal connections. And if you go into it paying attention to the game and absorbing it that way, it's hard for me to imagine a lot of people wouldn't find it really powerful. And it wasn't a huge hit. It was a big critical hit, but it wasn't a huge commercial hit. I'm glad that they followed up with another one and I'm excited, dude. Really looking forward to it.
It's a cult. It's like a cult movie, the way that I think about that game. And I remember actually specifically when we sat down for the spoiler cast, at the point that we were at where we had just finished it, I remember being less hot on it than I was in the beginning. Just because, there's pacing issues in a lot of my favorite games from 2015 onward, quite frankly. Like I think
Red Dead.
Red Dead is a great example. I love that game to death, but almost none of what I love about Red Dead comes from that last 8 hours. Like actually none of it really. And so that's somewhat, it's not exactly the same with Death Stranding because I think there's more interesting stuff at the end of Death Stranding than there is in Red Dead, technically speaking. But yeah, I just remember being like, I have to do this again. Like there's something that you have to do twice in a row where you're just like, oh my God, come on. And so I think I have issues with Death Stranding. I would never sit here and say that it's like a 100% like perfect 10 out of 10 video game, but I love it. And I love its strange language. David Lynch is a great comparison because like I don't think I've ever played a game that made me feel the way that Death Stranding made me feel. And I don't think I've ever seen a movie like that's. There's a scene in like Lost Highway where like that famous scene where the guy in the makeup comes to the party. Where like, I don't think I've ever felt anything like that in any movie I've ever seen. You know, there's a surreal, very strange, impossible to pinpoint feeling in both of these people's work, and I think there's something really special waiting for you in Death Stranding if you haven't tried it yet. But it is something that you have to really almost surrender yourself to really get a lot of it, I think.
I'm really curious for this game because I'm looking at a headline now. I've never heard of this site, icyveins.com. But they're reporting on the South by Southwest panel where in the trailer it puts prominently, I don't think this is the first time either, where it says we should not have connected. And Kojima saying like this, I want people to play the game and understand what I mean. So what's so crazy about the original Death Stranding is that people felt like he predicted COVID-19 before it happened. And so now with this one, I'm just very curious, this idea, it's like what we did in the first game maybe was not a good idea. Very intriguing.
Yeah, it's I love the title of this episode will be one of the things they put over like the text over the screens. And that's what we did when the game was announced. You might remember is it was should have we connected? You know, and now he's answering the question, we shouldn't have connected. Or maybe we shouldn't have. And I want to be clear because Chris, I think what you were saying was really interesting too about making you feel like something. It's like Journey, or the end of the original Last of Us, or something like that. I don't think I've been trying to like figure this out in my mind. I think games are art, but I don't think every game is art. If that makes any sense. In other words, every game has the potential to get into the artistic. Every game is literally art, but every game has the potential approach towards being considered art, a BioShock, even a Super Mario Brothers or something from whatever perspective. But not every game has to be that. In other words, not every game has to touch me in some like, in some serious way or like some really deep way. Like what Journey did to me was crazy. I'll never forget it. I've never played it again. Because I'm like, I'll never forget that. Why? What was I so upset? You know, like, and So I don't want that all the time. Sometimes you want to play a game for intrigue or just for fun, to waste time, for great story and immersion. But every once in a while, I play a game like Death Stranding where it's everything. And it's a true immersion into an approach towards art, and a game as art, and art makes you feel. And they try to, and it's trying to say something, and people get different things out of these games too. I've said ad nauseum, like I read Death Stranding as a pro-life game, and it stuck out to me because nothing says that kind of shit in games, nor should it. It's like, say what you want, but I'm saying that stood out to me because I was like, wow, it seems so obvious. Then someone else comes and interprets it, not unlike going to a fine art museum and two people are staring at the same painting and seeing something totally radically different. And that's what's special, in my opinion, about games like Kojima makes. So
yeah,
it's not to like fillet him or over. It's to say like, no, some people are just really that good, and you have to kind of accept it. It's kind of, whether it's made for you or not is perhaps another thing entirely. But maybe you're not into like what Miyamoto has done, but are you really gonna say that he's not a master of the craft? Are you serious? Or maybe like you like whiskey, but you don't like tequila, but a fine purveyor of tequila, like you don't appreciate and respect what they do, you know, even though it's not for you, even though you would rather drink whiskey. That's the way I look at Kojima.
It'd almost be as bad if someone shit on the Beatles on this podcast. It'd be
Who
terrible.
Did that? What happened?
I don't know. Who was it? Who could it be?
The Beatles are fine.
Let's not go there right now.
Fair.
Grant has the final inquiry, and he says, hello, gentlemen. In the recent Death Stranding 2 trailer, Kojima revealed a new character with a strong resemblance to Solid Snake. My question is, could Konami have a case against Kojima creating a character that is obviously inspired by Snake? I personally think it's funny Kojima is doing this, especially with Metal Gear Solid Delta coming out, and hope he has the last laugh given how he was treated by Konami. I don't think it'll affect Konami's bottom line too much, but I imagine they are annoyed by this to some degree. We all know a company like Nintendo wouldn't take something like this lightly either. I'm guessing they have a legitimate case if they wanted to, but it would be hard for them not to look like assholes in the process. Guessing Hogue would have some good insight as well. Thanks for all the great pods. I actually don't think they would have a case. I think it's obvious, and it reminds me of what others have given Kojima permission to do this to Konami. I think more explicitly Iga, who just started making Castlevania games that are in many ways, especially the old school ones, indistinguishable in some cases from Castlevania 3. And it's begging you, right, to notice. And then Vampire Survivors, right, is another. We've gone into that a ton. It's like, no, Konami's getting bodied left and right. Kojima putting fucking Solid Snake clone into Death Stranding is nothing. What I love about what it could, and again, this is where I don't want to get too heady, but it's like, what does it mean?
Right.
It's not just done to be, he's not the kind of person to just do it. And I know that it was brought up that like I think it was said that the act.
I mean, you do have like monster energy.
Yeah, that's true.
So sometimes maybe a little bit.
That's true.
But
I think something was said about how the actor would have looked like Snake if he had a headband on, and then they realized that was true, and so they went with it. Like I read something like that, but there is a shot where it's like that looks like Snake, completely looks like Snake, but it's awesome. And I don't think that's really something they can go after. It's not like Pikachu. It's a man in a bandana with hair going over it. And I think it's a little, I don't know. So what do you think, Dustin?
Well, it's important to think back about Snake as a character to begin with. And he is so heavily inspired by the John Carpenter movie, Escape from New York.
Mm.
I was searching it, and Polygon has an article where they talked to John Carpenter about, let's see, speaking to the Hollywood Reporter, said that one of the rights holders of his 1980 film wanted to go after the video game Metal Gear Solid, which is kind of a ripoff from Escape from New York. And apparently Carpenter said, I know the director of those games, and he's a nice guy, or at least he's nice to me. So they never took legal action. So my point overall is that Snake is really not, I mean, he's an original character, just very, very heavily inspired by another character. And so this is just
also named Snake, I think.
Snake Plissken.
Yeah, so that's even fun.
Yeah,
like they're both named Snake.
It doesn't even say, like, isn't Plissken in 2, right? Like that's like
right. Yeah, his secret name is Plissken.
John Carpenter is so fucking funny, man. Like, have you heard him just like talk about Like he'll mention video games sometimes, and it's always,
Yeah, he's like really into them, right?
Yeah. He's like, I love Jack and Daxter, and you're like, what the fuck? Why? What the hell are you talking about? It's the strangest shit in the world. Like I know he mentioned. I know he talked about wanting to do a Dead Space movie, which would have been so cool, but or at least
that would work. A Dead Space movie would work. Could work.
Oh, easily, yeah. I mean, it is arguably kind of Event Horizon, sorta, but
yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't know, man. Death Stranding 2 on the beach, ready. I'm ready for you.
Yeah, I hope it's good. I hope it's not that there's any doubt that it won't be interesting. But, like, not every Kojima game works for me. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really like Metal Gear Solid 4, really. And I do want to say, like, as much as we're glazing, he is a guy. Like, there's I think, a pretty slim chance that this is a mess. Like, very, very little. But, like, it's possible. I worry about that with, like, Tarantino's last movie because he's, like, only got, like, one left, apparently. Like, and I'm just like, man, why
would you ever put yourself in that corner? It's so stupid. It's like, why would you ever say, like, I'm going to make 12 movies or whatever it is? I'm like, well, why don't you just make what you feel like making when you want to make it? Yeah.
I think I get it. I think he's, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
It certainly is. All right. We're all going to get got though and get the early edition?
I think I might. Yeah. I think
most likely.
Yeah. Because the thing about that is like, it's early access to a story-based game. And I don't want to deal, like, people have no fucking etiquette anymore about spoiling shit at all. So like, I just don't trust the broader, I don't trust the broader internet to not fucking ruin something about that game for me. So like, yeah, I'm probably gonna, on a sheer practicality level, $80 is not too much to ask for, in my opinion, for an inoculation to like that level of spoilers, which will be undoubtedly fucking unavoidable, I think.
All right. We'll put a pin in it for now. I'm tuned out now completely. I've seen too much. So I'm sure there'll be more trailers and more, teases and I'm sure the interviews will probably cover, but press tour kind of thing. I wonder what their plans are. If they're going to have a lot to say or just kind of release this thing and see what people think. I'm sure they're pretty confident in it. South by Southwest is a choice in and of itself.
Yeah.
So you try to broaden things, make it a little more serious. This is Sony's MO, I think, pretty clearly right now. It's the same reason why you speak to GQ instead of speaking to IGN.
It's a very filmic place to announce something like this.
Yeah, definitely. All right, number 2, the only other story this week. It's yet another week, which means it's time yet again to discuss new additions to PlayStation Plus. This time in the form of titles going to PS Plus Extra's game catalog, as well as PS Plus Premium's Classics catalog. In other words, these games aren't for core PlayStation Plus subs like me, but for those at the 2 higher tiers. Let's begin with additions to the game catalog for PS Plus Extra and Premium. Perhaps the biggest entry of the month is in the form of UFC 5 on PS5, the martial arts game from EA first launched in 2023. Meanwhile, for both PS4 and PS5 are the following: Ubisoft's high-quality 2024 Metroidvania Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Bandai Namco's 2020 soccer game Captain Tsubasa: Rise of the New Champions, Bandai Namco's 2021 anime title Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation Code Fairy, Wired Productions' 2022 management simulator Arcade Paradise, Exit Playing Games' 2023 open-world sandbox game Bang On Balls Chronicles, Happy Volcano's unusual 2022 racer You Suck at Parking, and Microid's 2022 adventure game Siberia: The World Before. Meanwhile, for premium subscribers, you'll get a new PSVR 2 game in the form of the aforementioned Arcade Paradise, but in VR, aptly named Arcade Paradise VR. And then, as first revealed weeks ago, a trio of old Armored Core games are also en route from the famed developer FromSoft, and all of them will be available to purchase a la carte if you don't have a PS Plus premium subscription. Those games are the original PS1 Armored Core from 1997, as well as the 1998 follow-up Project Phantasma and the 1999 follow-up Master of Arena. All of these titles listed here will be available beginning on March 18th, the same date that some notable games will leave the PS Plus game catalog, including Resident Evil 3 Remake, Mortal Kombat 11, Street Fighter 5, Life is Strange 2, and Final Fantasy Type 0, among others, according to website True Trophies. Anything in there for you guys? You guys are occasional PS Plus Extra enjoyers. I'm not. Anything in there that you might peruse? Seems a little bit weak this month, to be honest.
I'm a little curious about this Arcade Paradise game. Looking
Me
at
too.
the
Because
PlayStation blog, it sounds cool.
yeah, I agree. I've seen that name many times, but I didn't know what it was. I assumed it was some sort of thing I wouldn't care about. But it's about like opening an arcade in an old laundromat, I think.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat.
It sounds like I had that thing for trading card shop sim for a little while.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe could evoke the same thing, starting your own arcade. Sounds cool. I don't know what's going on with the Bang on Balls Chronicles.
Yeah, that had
The Chronicles of the Bang on Balls.
I looked it up on Steam, and I think it had Bang on Balls. Yeah, I think it had good reviews actually. Yeah, it's got overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Really?
On Steam. Yeah, 3,979 reviews. So it's not the biggest thing in the world, but yeah.
Bang on Balls.
Bang on balls, man. You can't you never doubt them.
Can't go wrong with Bang on Balls.
No.
Let's see. Anything else in here?
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
I don't know.
Armored Core.
I mean, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown to me, maybe. But that's really, I don't know. It is kind of a weak month, I think, generally.
Yeah, that is a great game. I bought it and platinumed it when it came out, but I highly recommend that if you have PS Plus Extra to check that out. Dustin, what about the Armored Core games?
Yeah, I will download those, play them for.
Do you have premium?
I do right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably won't. I can't remember what I got it for, but I figured that it was worth it for the time being. So I'll check them out for 20 minutes, but I can't imagine them being that fun unless you grew up with those at this point. They're probably really dated, but I'd like to see them. Check them out.
All right. Those games come March 18th. Godspeed to you. Let's end with 6 questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas from the audience over on Patreon, patreon.com/lastdaymedia. As you know, a perk over there is to submit your inquiries to the weekly thread in the newsfeed. You've heard a bunch of them already. These are 6 random ones that I thought would be interesting to talk about. We'll spend some time with each of them. We'll start with the Slayer Giant, who says, "Hello, fellow sacred samurais and shinobis. With the report of Ubisoft allegedly holding talks with EA and Microsoft over selling some of their IP, has the company officially crossed the Rubicon and gone the way of THQ? I know pre-orders on Amazon for Assassin's Creed Shadows seem strong, but it feels like it finally got to the point of too little too late if those kinds of talks are happening now. Does Ubisoft survive this? And what Ubisoft IP do you think will end up in a place like Microsoft or EA? Keep up the great work and keep slitting them slits." I don't know what that means. I don't like that.
Yeah, no. It's
pretty bad.
So did you guys see the story about this? About how, so the story basically goes that like a Ubisoft shareholder is kind of, I think, filed a complaint wherever Ubisoft is traded natively, I guess France, saying that they didn't properly disclose to shareholders that they were in high-level talks with companies like EA and Microsoft to unload IP. And it's unclear. These are allegations, so it's unclear whether it's actually true or not. But this is what the story is based on. And I didn't include it in the news itself because I just didn't think many people would really care about it. But it does open up the idea that Ubisoft, and we've known this because we've reported on it in the past, is open to selling either parts of itself or more. And that they're working, the Guillemot family may be even working with Tencent in order to like reestablish a smaller Ubisoft with some of its IP and then kind of shedding a bunch of the other stuff. Will it mean they go the way of THQ? I don't know. Assassin's Creed, I personally, I was saying this on, I guess it was on Summon Sign, that I'm like, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to do very well. And I think it's going to be in the nick of time for Ubisoft, but it only buys them so much runway, so much leeway. And it'll give them time to figure things out. But I think it's inevitable that they're going to have to shed a lot of their studios and a lot of their IP, and selling and getting some capital is probably the way to do it. I don't know what do you think those companies would have been interested in? Dustin, when I ask you what EA and Ubisoft, or EA and Microsoft look at Ubisoft, like what are they wanting?
Well, I would imagine that their biggest IP aren't on the table. The things that are still actively making them money, but
so Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Clancy, right? You would assume
for the most part. Because I was thinking, I mean, there's Tom Clancy games that they've left dormant. Of course, for Chris, Splinter Cell. Hopefully they sell that so somebody will fucking make it, or something like Ghost Recon or whatever. So I don't know how that would work with those being Tom Clancy games. But there's like an image I found on Google that's like a list of all these different Ubisoft IP to try to figure out which ones might make sense. And, they have the Driver IP, which would be kind of cool to revive, but also not very relevant anymore. they had a thing going with Immortals Phoenix Rising, but they canceled that. It's hard because the things that like we were saying, the things that would make them that still make them money, you would imagine they'd want to keep. So potentially some of these legacy IP that someone could go and do something with. Or maybe something that's a little like offbeat that maybe isn't making them a ton of money, but someone could go and make great, like Trackmania or something.
I'm muted again. Trackmania is apparently pretty big, actually.
Yeah,
right? Like
that's
silently
true.
a pretty big game. I personally think that like if Guillemot, the Guillemot family and Tencent kind of spin off and do something new with like some of the IP and leverage that, you would just want to keep Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Clancy. And you could probably shed everything else. I would think that would even mean, and so some of the ones I think people might be interested in are like Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Which I think could go. Beyond Good and Evil is another one that I think could be an interesting purchase for someone. And you might even be able to splinter off some of the Tom Clancy stuff if you like license it. So it might be more effective if they want to have like an array of Clancy games still and don't really want to like be responsible for producing them. It might be interesting to let others pitch them on some of those games for the first time ever. And
yeah,
because I know Tom Clancy, I know Rainbow Six Siege is getting a big update, right? Like 6v6 and all sorts of shit like that. Like, so they're evolving that game. Because it's 4-on-4 now, right? Isn't that?
Oh, man.
I
have
know.
no idea. I think it might be 5.
Player. 5.
That's purely based on like what I assume.
I did play Rainbow Six Siege like very briefly, not on my own account, but like I don't know what the context was. It might have been for a stream or something. I don't really remember back in the day, but I remember it fairly like cogently, where I was like, I can see why this would be very addictive, very fun. You know, like you're setting fucking charges on doors and like finding hostages, right, and shit like that. I'm thinking of the right game.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, for sure. But you used to play Rainbow Six also, right? Like
I played Rainbow Six 3 specifically. Yeah, I played that for hundreds of hours. I loved that game.
Yeah.
I walked into like through a blizzard to go to Best Buy to buy that game on Xbox.
Whoa.
Like I wanted it so bad. I was like, I gotta have this game. Like
everyone at
IGN, like I was a freelancer and everyone was playing it there, and I wanted to like be part of the group. You know, I wanted to like be friendly with everyone. So yeah, I played it, and then they like what I realized later working there was like there's like the game of the moment, and everyone's on to the next game constantly. But for me, I had no money and I had like very little time, so that was my game for quite a bit. While they all moved off, I ended up playing with a bunch of randos on there. All right. Anything else to say about this? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what would make sense. I think they've been open to this for a while, at least behind the scenes, and I'll be interested to see, because I think they're planning some sort of like protest about this or something. I don't think any of this is really going to matter. I don't know why, if you're a shareholder of the company, you want to fuck around with the company right now when they're teetering and are in really bad shape. And if the powers that be are going to be able to get some capital for these dormant, fallow fucking IP that they can't seem to execute on, why not?
Yeah.
I just don't think the future is in releasing a shit ton of games. I think the future is releasing high quality games, like a few of them. We'll see.
Yeah.
Teeth Mummy wrote in and said, "Greetings, Sacred Bros. Happy MLB The Show launch week. As a longtime fan of the series, this annual release always brings me great joy as I dive into the new features, trophies, and modes the game delivers. Especially excited to see what leaps the game has this year based on dropping support for PS4, though the stinky Switch may still impair it. Do any of you have thoughts on Sony's most successful live service game? Will you play it? Have you considered reaching out to one of the many MLB The Show content creators for an episode of Sacred Plus? Curious if you and the LSM community in general share my enthusiasm for all things the show. Thanks, I'll hang up and listen." I haven't played the show in years, probably since the PS3 era. And I actually really loved the baseball games when I was a kid. I've said before, Baseball Stars was like a seminal NES game for me. That game is so fucking good. It was the first game I had ever played with a deep statistics system that would save your stats. It was unbelievable because most games didn't do that, especially on the NES. It was like way ahead of its time. It's an SNK game. I loved Roger Clemens baseball. That was an LJN game, actually.
Yeah.
I had that on SNES. It was like an unlicensed game. So I had like fake teams and shit, but I loved that game. And then I loved the 2K series for a while when it still existed, and would buy that most years for some time. And I was really into baseball as a younger person, so it was all part of the experience. But sports games are so dominant of your time if you really want to get a lot out of them, and they become like these games as a service do, where it's like it's what you do. And I just don't want to spend a ton of time playing a simulation of the game that I'm just going to watch anyway. I feel like this specifically with Madden, which is why I just don't play it anymore. So I know you guys aren't in MLB The Show, but I know I wanted to give a shout out because it's a huge game. I mean,
yeah,
it's a big release. Yeah,
I played actually a pretty decent amount of the one that came to Game Pass.
There were several years. This will be the first year in a while it doesn't come. Actually,
yeah. The first one that came to Game Pass I played because I was just like, I have to see this. I got to see what this looks like, and I enjoyed it. Like I mean, I like baseball. I have like a cultural kind of connection to it. I remember going to Yankee Stadium definitely more than once, and enjoying that experience and playing baseball, obviously. But, you know, there's only so much meat that I can get out of a game like that, I think. Like, I don't really follow baseball today. I don't know I don't know a single fucking modern Yankee at all. You know, like, I don't know if there's somebody on the Yankees
myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really follow the game. But I did like what I played of the show. I think it was like a very polished, very nostalgic game for me, because I think I played, was it RBI baseball? Was that a game?
Yeah, RBI baseball was and there were several of them. Yeah,
I think I played RBI baseball 2005, if I'm not mistaken. I had a 2005 baseball game that I think was that. Yeah,
I don't think RBI baseball is older and then revived. You might have been playing like High Heat or 2K or something like that.
No, I'll look for it because it is something. But baseball 2005.
I'm curious about this as well.
Original Xbox. That I remember. It was on the original Xbox. What? Oh, MVP. Okay, MVP. So it was MVP baseball. So it wasn't RBI.
Yeah.
But I remember playing the shit out of MVP baseball for some reason. That year I just got like really into that game. And so like the soundscape of like baseball is very nostalgic to me. Like the specific intonation of the announcers and just like there's something about it that I remember I felt very nostalgic going and playing the show. And so I do appreciate it, but that's not where like the meat of what I look for in video games is. So
yeah, I totally get it. There was a time when I was totally enraptured with sports games. I was really weird because I'd play like basically 50% or 40% sports games, 40% JRPGs, and like 20% other.
Yeah,
you know, from in my like SNES and PlayStation era. And I would vacillate between these games, and I'm so interested in statistics, that it's fun to like just play it for those reasons and stack those things up and see these alternate realities of how all the players do and stuff. But it does lose its luster after a while, and I would rather play other games. I also think what's funny is that the contemporaries largely of those games that I was playing weren't as long and meaty as games are today. So you had more time to play sports games.
Yeah.
And now there's just I couldn't even imagine trying to NHL is the last series that I kind of abandoned. And I abandoned that like almost 10 years ago at this point. Because I'm like, I just can't squeeze this in. And I was even at that point only playing it because I was reviewing it every year as well. Anyway. Thank you for writing in, Teeth Mummy. Happy MLB The Show launch week. I will say, I know it's a very high quality game, and that studio is obsessive, as I've said many times, with baseball. And I love that they just keep it going from a first party position. Remember, San Diego used to make NBA games a long time ago as well, and they haven't done that in a long time. So this MLB series is really their meat and potatoes. Deleted Member wrote in and said, "Greetings, boys. Do you think GTA 6 will make fun of MAGA? At the present moment, the right is utterly dominant politically, so it will be very strange if that's not one of the game's primary targets. However, it might have been very hard to predict this if the writing process really began 10 years ago. Also, Trump voters tend to be extremely sensitive to criticism, and the devs might fear a boycott. Colin's conversation with Jaffe got me thinking about this. I know people are worried the game will avoid making fun of trans people, for instance, but in my opinion, the satire will feel seriously outdated if it's only making fun of the cultural left. Cheers." Yeah, Jaffe and I had a really great conversation, actually. We talked a lot about GTA 6 on Sacred Symbols Plus. You guys can go check that out, like what our expectations are for it. My basic argument is that like I always tell people to keep their expectations in check. And I'm like, you should have astronomical expectations for Grand Theft Auto 6, and it should meet them. And if it doesn't, I think the game's a failure. It's taken 10 years and over $1 billion. So you should have extraordinarily high expectations for it. And it should meet or exceed those expectations. I truly believe that. And I don't believe that for most games. That's such a heinous amount of time. Thousands of people.
Yeah.
Like, so no excuses. No excuses. And
you gotta imagine there's probably like hundreds upon hundreds of people who like worked like deeply on that game who aren't going to be in the credits.
Right. Because you have to finish. I mean? Yeah, like that's a rock. I wonder if they're going to abridge that rule, because that's Chris is bringing up an infamous thing with Rockstar. Well, they won't put you in the game's credits if you aren't there when the game launches.
Yeah.
And that really pisses people off because they don't get, Moby game. I know we talk about Moby games sometimes, and it's an insider thing, but it's very important in the industry. And it's how people network and like get their portfolios out there and stuff along with LinkedIn. So it's really a bummer when they have to be like, I was in Red Dead Redemption 2 uncredited. Then you won't show up on Moby games and all of the rest. So I guess there's some relevance there. Now, we were talking a great deal about, and Jaffe was interested too in like we were wondering what the games were going to lampoon. And I was saying GTA 3 is lampooning, the Italian American experience and like the mafia and all that kind of stuff. And it's very base level. Vice City's the 80s and cocaine and Miami Vice, and San Andreas is mid 90s, West Coast, hip hop, all of the rest. GTA 4, I think, is about immigrants and the immigrant experience in a big city like New York. And then 5 is about Hollywood and glitz and the weird conflict of and conflagration of all those things in Southern California. For me, I was hoping that my hope with 6 is that because it takes place in Florida and Florida is so politically conservative, that kind of is inherently what it's going to be about. And it would be kind of cool for it to make fun of that stuff. And my hope is that it will. The thing that Jaffe and I were worried about is that, and what I was saying was that like the game has been done from a writing perspective for so long. Now I know that like you can evolve it and you're always having people come back, and the main characters have probably recorded a shit ton of mocap and voice acting over years as they get into it. So I totally get that. But it's like, what was fun to make fun of, or what was ascendant politically, culturally, whatever, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, it's so different now. And the one way I think GTA misses is if it feels dated because it took too long, which might be a lesson in why you don't want things to bake too long. But I hope that they're nimble enough about that and they're smart enough about that to have done something really clever. And because, again, of the setting and them invoking all of the real world in those trailers, like the crazy shit on TikTok and all the rest, it just seems like they understand what time it is. And this all came from, I don't know if you guys saw, it was a couple months ago, we might have talked about it, where they like, Rockstar was apparently given a directive from Take-Two to like kind of take it easy. And they were specifically talking about like trans people and all of the rest. And who knows like if the reporting is accurate or not. But I think it brought in some worry amongst people like, oh, maybe it will not be as critical as it used to be and not as relevant as it used to be. And I'm like, no, I don't think you should feel that way. Let's see what it is first. But so will it make fun of MAGA? I think that's going to be a pretty big part of it, I would assume. But I could be wrong. Maybe not make fun of it so much as be around it and in it. And that's part of it. If you're in Florida, that's part of it. Like in a major way. Even in Miami. Miami's a Republican city. Like...
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a Republican mayor, he ran for president. So it's like, there is going to have to be inherently some sort of lampooning of conservatism in this game for it to feel authentic. And I think that's what you're going to get. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like with Rockstar games, my hope is it's kind of like South Park, that no one is safe from being made fun of. My gut from the trailer is that the core lampooning of this is going to be how we as a society collectively have gone insane with the advent of social media, showing all the like clips of people doing crazy stuff and sharing every part of their lives and doing ridiculous things just for a shred of clout online. I would love to see that be a primary angle. And of course, some of that will be political. We will totally go off the deep end on both sides politically, just to make a name for themselves on the internet. So I would imagine it's going to be in there. How directly it's going to be is in terms of its like relevant making fun of stuff. We'll have to wait and see.
It's
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No. I think you guys are right. I think the fact that they chose to set it in Florida kind of inoculates it in some way, because it is like Florida, it hasn't changed really that much in the last 10 years. Not necessarily, not like at a core fundamental level. If anything, it's just ratcheted up. So I think in some way they're kind of safe. But I do think they're not going to be as nimble. Like there's certain things like, will you touch on Musk? I don't know. Or something like that, like a billionaire.
It might be too soon. That's the thing is like, especially with him, it might be that might be too soon.
Yeah. And I do think it's difficult in general to, I don't know, political satire used to be a lot easier. And I say that as somebody who did it for a long time, where like, I just feel like you used to be able to extrapolate absurdity into something that would maybe hold a mirror up to it. And that would act as like a good kind of alternate future. But like, I don't know, and I ran into this issue like a couple years ago, and I'm still kind of wrestling with it. It's like, how do you make things funny when now the culture is clued in to like, that's how you even get a message out there? Like, it's, how do you make it funnier than it already is when Trump is on the White House lawn saying, "I love Tesla"?
I love Tesla.
Like, how do you make like that is so outwardly ridiculous.
What did he say about computers or something? He's like,
it's all a computer. It's all computers. It's Dash.
This is
Tesla.
This guys, like, this is the stupidest time ever. And so like, it is a difficult task to like hold that up and transform it in a way that's funny, because otherwise like, there's not really much you have to do to make it funny. But also like, if you're just showing what is, that's not necessarily funny. That's just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's insane. He said Tesla. He's selling his friend's cars. Like, the president's selling his friend's cars on the White House. Like, it's insane. And so, like, I don't know what you'd even do to satirize things like that. So, like, I do think I have a lot of respect for like for people who do that on a regular basis and who have been able to keep their finger on the pulse, because it is difficult. And South Park writers and comedy writers. And,
I was just thinking about South Park, like that. Hopefully they go to town on some of this stuff soon.
But yeah, it's a hard job. I don't envy that task, especially like with the amount of money and the amount of time that's gone into this. But I think ultimately, like the place that they've chosen to set it was, I don't even think it's necessarily that they planned on it being that wise, but I actually think like it is kind of like an unintentionally very smart place to set a game if you're planning on, spending a lot of time writing, modern satire, because Florida hasn't, in my estimation, maybe people there would say differently, but in my estimation, like, Florida hasn't radically evolved in any real meaningful way outside of the things that were, I would argue, pretty predictable.
It's actually, I think, become more conservative, which is interesting.
Yeah. So
everyone thought it was like a swing state in 2000. It was the classic swing state, and now it's like ruby red, and so maybe that affects like what they'll.
Maybe.
Here's my thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
Well, I was gonna say, like, my adult life, it's always been pretty, like, what Florida is, especially if you're on the East
definitely
Coast.
Florida, man. And dude, I've said it a million times. Like, Cops was our insight in along Long Island and in Florida. I loved it. I was like, this place is fucking wild. Yeah. Other than you go into Orlando for Disney World or whatever, it's like, Jesus, this place is fucking crazy. If you go to like the Panhandle and shit like that and all that, I'm like, what is going on up here? What I was gonna say was, I think what the best way to do this, and this might be the best route and the easiest route, because a lot of this stuff can come late in development, is like, and Jaffe and I were reflecting on this, was I hope that the game is focused and like it's about something very specific, which I think it is. And it takes the piss out of something extra hard in a very specific direction, whatever that might be. And you get all of the cultural trappings of lampooning everything around it through billboards, radio stations, side quests or side characters, NPCs, like that can kind of be played in much later, and inherently is much later when you're starting to texture everything and voiceovers and all that kind of stuff. And so hopefully it will be like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But very similar to Far Cry 5, like its setting suggests it will have some sort of political slant, and they got to lean into that and put their shoulder into it, because it's exactly what we need right now. I think, regardless of your political ideologies, I think we need to like laugh at situations much more. Again, the whole idea of laughing or crying, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think there's a fair chance that I would love to know, and we'll never really know, but like how it evolved over time, since it's taken so long. They must have changed a lot in the way the story is presented, or maybe it's about something so timeless that it was the same all the whole time. Who knows? We'll know when we know, I guess.
That I think plays into GTA 4 and why that game is so like impactful to me still. It's like you play that game, it's like that's a real story. Like it happens in a world that is a big joke, but that's like a real. If they can nail it, something like that, that's very exciting. I have my expectations for GTA 6 are absurdly high.
Yeah, they should be.
And I'm super excited at the prospect. The idea that we're going to be playing it this year, hopefully, like if everything goes to plan, is kind of insane. So like just to wrap your head around, it's like, damn, we're kind of here. If everything goes, to plan. Which
I think it's coming this year. Like I think they would have said so at this point. I think they're running out of time to say so. For not only I think you got to do right by your shareholders too, and fiduciarily, I'm sure that's the most important thing to them. But yeah, I think we'll get it this year. I hope so. I picked it for our betting special, and I really need that score. I need to absorb that score, and I hope that it's great too. And I just think it's akin to, in baseball, there's no salary cap, and like the team that spends the most amount of money, like the Dodgers or whoever it is, or the Yankees, and it's like, oh, what are your expectations for the Dodgers this year? And it's like, oh, they'll be all right. It's like, no, your expectations, right? However it turns out, like your expectations should be through the roof. Do you see the resources, the effort, the talent? It's like, come on, man. This game doesn't deserve I'll tell you one game that doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. It's Grand Theft Auto 6. All right.
Yeah.
Nick wrote in and said, hey boys, Neil Druckmann says Intergalactic will be about faith and religion. These topics are nothing new to video games, of course, but it's so rare to play something that comes off as pro-religion. I think we have all played 100 games where the church is up to no good or the final boss is a god. Should we expect Intergalactic to subvert those cliches or not? I don't know if you guys saw this. This comes from an interview Neil did. I can't remember with who. It's on that Creator to Creator series. You know what I'm talking about? And he basically, I didn't cover it in the news part because he didn't say very much. I mean, he just said that the game takes place, in the far future. We already knew that the timeline kind of deviates in the 1980s, and there's like and then I guess the newer stuff is that it's about in some way like this new religion that becomes dominant over a couple of thousand years from that point onward. Sounds cool to me. And I think he was saying it facetiously, by the way, if you watch the delivery of the video, where he's like, we took so much heat with The Last of Us Part 2 that we thought we would do something a little less controversial this time, like a game about religion. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that they're kind of leaning into what they're going to try to do, and not for controversy's sake, but just to touch interesting stuff. And by the way, The Last of Us Part 2 is the most I won't spoil it, but the most under represented and appreciated, and I think exploited part of the game was the religion aspect of it. They didn't go far enough, in my opinion, at least until late in the game, and they could have done so much more. And one of the first trailers of The Last of Us Part 2 definitely showcases religion in a major way. And so it seems top of mind, perhaps. Also, depending on how you read into the allegory of The Last of Us Part 2, it is itself about religion. So this seems to be on the mind, nonetheless, of Neil and his team. Chris, how do you feel about playing a game from Naughty Dog all about religion? And should we expect the cliches of religious coverage in games to be subverted or not? My assumption, Chris, is that it'll probably not be a major part of the game.
Yeah, I don't know. It is weird to bring it up. Like I do think that kind of indicates that it's probably going to be a deeper part of the game than maybe we would assume based on their previous work. But like, I don't know. Could we expect a subversion? Like maybe, but like, I don't know if you guys feel this way too, but I almost kind of feel like there's subversion in not subversions, or like not like it gets to the point now where it's just like, what do we even expect out of anything now?
Right.
Where like, I kind of expect that everything's going to have like some kind of twist or some kind of a different, way of going about it, because otherwise why make it in the first place if you're just going. So like my expectation honestly is probably like maybe they just play it straight and there is no subversion and it is just like straight up religion. But like again, this is all very speculatory. I think I love religion in video games. I think it's fucking awesome. I think it's a great theme. I think there's so much pliability there, not only just with characters that you can write around it, but just like different perspectives and interpretations. And it's such an easy, it's in some ways a cheat code to kind of like really flesh out like a rogues gallery of characters or just like even just motivation. Like I think it's so interesting. And I personally feel like it's criminally underutilized in a lot of video games. Like, and to the effect that they are utilized, it's very surface level. It's stuff like, Assassin's Creed. And it's just like, oh, what if the Pope has the, a powerful thing? And it's just like, all right, it's not uninteresting, but it's not as interesting as it could be given, how many layers there are to it. Some of my favorite games, I think, of all time are like very, very religious or like hinge in some way on it. Things like Halo. I think about BioShock Infinite as well. I think these are like stellar games in like chiefly because of their religious focus or just like their underpinnings and their backdrop. So like I'm on board with the idea. I hope it's as much of a part of the game as it seems like it is. The fact that he mentioned it at all when he didn't have to is kind of an indication to me that maybe it's significantly deeper than what we saw in The Last of Us Part 2 or what we would expect to see in a sci-fi game. But yeah, I hope it is. I hope it is about religion because that's cool.
Dustin, Nick makes a good point here. In addition to what Chris was saying, which was, it is true that religion often comes off as a foil, if not the outright bad guy, or spirituality or whatever in these games, whether you're talking about a JRPG or something more serious like Dead Space or something. Is it possible to portray like what would be a game where like God is I guess like ActRaiser is a great example. You play as God. It's an interesting point. Like, what is the pro religion game or the game where religion is the solution?
Yeah,
I'm sure they exist. I'm just not thinking of any.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm really curious how it will be tackled. As far as it subverting expectations, I'm sure there'll be some of that. And it's like Chris was saying, like in what way an expected subverting or totally different. The main thing that I've been thinking about this game is that I'm starting to wonder if the controversy around this trailer is going to be nothing compared to what's ahead. I feel like Neil, especially in these interviews where he's already kind of laying the seed, like this is going to be controversial, pretty interesting. And I wonder if we haven't seen anything yet for what this game is going to kick up. And I think that's awesome. It's going to be potentially annoying to navigate at times, especially for us as PlayStation podcasters and stuff. But
I think it'll be good for business.
Yeah. Well, and I think that whether or not I think for me, in the way I view it, like let's say the game is like highly critical of religion in a very controversial way, and I don't agree with it. To me, that's okay. I like the idea of this game being very controversial, or any games being very controversial for different reasons, whether I agree with them or not. It's so much more interesting than just kind of saying and going over the same stories or the same morals, whatever. So I really hope that's the case. But like I said, with Neil kind of already pointing out like, oh, we decided to go with something less controversial. It's like, okay, see what happens with this.
We'll look forward to it. It sounds like what he was saying, and I only read a synopsis of the interview, but that they still have a lot of work to do. It sounds like it's not maybe even next year, but we'll see.
Yeah,
maybe it's a PS. Well, they announced it for PS5, so I was gonna say maybe it's a PS6 game, but hopefully it's not that long. Mike is asking me if I want to go for a walk when I'm done. Yeah, we'll go, Micah. Yeah, that's so nice. We're trying to go for little walks every day.
That's nice.
Well, it's still, the weather's still decent. It's only 58. All right. The Great Santini wrote in and said, Sacred Men, gameplay for the next Battlefield game has leaked, and boy, oh boy, it's looking like a return to form. Seems like DICE is bringing the franchise back to more grounded, class-based shooter sensibilities with the destructible environments that made the series so popular. This is preferable to the more scripted Levolution events we've seen in games past. Colin, I know you're out on multiplayer shooters, but for Dustin and Chris, what are you guys? Are you guys fans of the Battlefield franchise? If so, have you seen the footage? If not, why not? I've been playing these games since Battlefield 1942's demo first arrived on PC, so it's hard not to get hyped by what I'm seeing. That said, to all my Battlefield brethren, remember, no pre-orders. Thanks for all that you guys do. Thanks for writing in. So I saw this, and I was actually reading about it. I don't know how much this evolved on the part of EA, but IGN was writing about it, and they were noting that EA is not conducting takedowns of any of the footage. Has this changed at all? If not, I feel like it's like they're like, oh, good. Like, get excited about it. Be positive about it. Maybe if it was more negative, maybe they'd be a little bit more protective of it. Because this stuff, the people playing in these gameplay tests are under NDA, so they're leaking, and I wonder if this stuff is subtly watermarked in any way. I'd be very afraid to do that in the modern era, personally, because I know that there are like subtle ways that they can track you that you wouldn't even really understand or realize. And you're kind of playing with fire with that because you are doing something. If you're under NDA, that would technically be illegal. But I played Battlefield 1 online for probably 5 hours or so. Those games are too overwhelming for me. I did like I guess that was Battlefield 1942. Like, that was the most interesting one because it was like the most arcadey and weird.
Oh, was it? Are you talking about the one like the arcade one?
Right. Like the $20 one or whatever it was.
Yeah. So that was Battlefield 1943.
Oh, 43. Okay.
And just to save you, because somebody's gonna be like, 1942 is actually old. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This is what I'm thinking of. 1940. Thank you. Battlefield 1943. Yeah. That's
a great one. Yeah. I loved the shit out of that one. That was like a really like kind of bite-sized Battlefield, dude.
I felt like Warhawk a little bit or something like that. It was like, a little bit more limited.
Yeah, look, man, I love me some Battlefield. I've loved Battlefield for a long, like, it's always been like my preferred, like, personal, like modern military shooter or what have you. Like, I loved 1943. I loved Battlefield 4. I loved Battlefield 3. Bad Company 1 and 2 I thought were just fantastic. 1 I was super into, like that World War I aesthetic with like the horses and like it's so damn cool. And the chaos of it, and the grandiosity of it is very unique and special. And it sucks that the future one was so, or the more recent future one was it
2042 or something? Was it that one?
Something like that, yeah. It's a shame that one missed the mark so heavily on a lot of it. I think they went into like more of like an operator's kind of perspective, or they went into like hero shooter light, where you would pick like certain characters or whatever. And obviously they famously didn't have a scoreboard at launch, which is like insane.
Yeah, that's weird. But so weird.
That's very bizarre. But my appetite for Battlefield is like so high. Like, it's been a long time now. Like, Battlefield 1 was the last one that I really, really gelled with. And that was 2016. That was around Titanfall 2 time, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So like, it's been a fucking minute. And so I think people are eager for a game like this, especially one that looks like it's harkening a little bit more back to like the Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3 kind of era, where it's not historical, it's not futuristic, it's more contemporary. I think there's an appetite for that, and I've seen some of the footage, and it looks really dope. I obviously am in the camp of, I'll wait and see, because they've kind of missed a couple times now.
Right, that's what he's saying at the end of his write-in, like no pre-orders.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, but it's promising, man. I'm cautiously optimistic about this. I think it looks exactly like what I would want out of a new Battlefield, and it's been a long time since we've had something like that. So I think if they can nail it, that would be really, really exciting.
Dustin, are you interested in Battlefield, the new Battlefield? It's unnamed, but again, it is modern in its setting, which was kind of teased, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, I have never been a hardcore Battlefield player, but I did play that Xbox Live Arcade one that you guys 1943?
Yeah.
4? Yeah.
1943.
43.
Really enjoyed that, and I've kind of dabbled with them here and there. This is conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, Dustin, but some of these leaks, the way that there's like things that block out the screen to try to avoid who it is, it's so intentional. I'm like, did they leak this on purpose? Like, is this like, are they putting out little marketing clips that they're disguising as leaks? Because they
very possible.
Dude, this one clip, it's like, it looks like it should be in a trailer with the like a vehicle rolling by and things exploding or whatever. Maybe not. I don't know. Either way, it looks really cool, and the destructibility is really, really neat. And I'm curious how that all plays out. So I'm definitely interested. I don't know if I'll be there day one. No pre-orders, of course. I agree. What did we say a few weeks ago? Like, you're only as good as your last game in some sense. And
Certainly.
the last game, not very good. But I'll definitely keep my eye on this. I would love to play this with my multiplayer group. Looks like a lot of fun.
Every core Battlefield game has at least an 80 on Metacritic, and the last one is a 68 on PC.
Yeah, it's a rough one. Even 5, I remember having like a lot of issues with 5. I didn't like 5 at all, but like I think 5 was a relatively competent game. I just don't think it was like doing anything that was like particularly exciting. And I had like one major issue with that game, that like they retooled how like medics worked, and they kind of like undervalued it. So like if they lean into like what the classes are supposed to be there for, then I think you'll have like you'll have a layup basically. All that matters is at that point is just delivering a game that runs and has a scoreboard, ideally. But I'm excited. Yeah, when the beta comes out for this, I'll be, or like if there's ever a chance to like playtest this like properly, like openly, like I'm gonna be all over it. So I'll definitely report when that's out.
Yeah, I think the idea too is that it could be intentional, but as I said earlier, I think at the very least they realize that people are enjoying it generally, and so the leaks benefit them, and so you shouldn't strike them. And so I think you can read into that in some sense, but we'll see how it all shapes out. It'll be either this year or next year. I think releasing this year would be unlikely. I don't know why you would do that, especially because it would be a fall game probably, and I don't know why you'd want to go into that territory with both Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. Just release it in February or something.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, Optimus Pounds wrote in and said, "Sacreds, Symbols, and Countrymen. I love Path of Exile too. I spent about 175 hours in early access fully building out my endgame merc, and I'm having a blast with guildmates smashing through the endgame monsters, mapping, and content. That said, one major gripe, the online trade market. I wouldn't say this is an optional part of Path of Exile, rather mandatory if you want any type of gear that is remotely decent enough to play endgame. If you're unfamiliar with the market, it's based on in-game currency in the form of orbs you get as drops, and in turn, you could pay other players for items they post online for market value. At launch, this was a useful tool, but now the market has gotten so out of control that the best gear is all but unobtainable, and I'm not sure what the solution is here from grinding gear. This isn't as bad as the kerfuffle that was the vanilla Diablo 3 auction house back in 2012, but man, it's clear that there's already a 1% oligarchy of Divine Orb and Mirror of Calandra holding players completely controlling the economy. As masters of gaming economics, what would you suggest as a path forward here for grinding gear to ensure that players who are putting in the time are rewarded, but also not so punishing to discourage new players those who play a little more casually? All the best, and thanks for the content every week. I love shit like this. Again, as I've said in the past, this is what was so fascinating about EVE Online, was just the self-governance and like the mechanics of their world that just happened. And games like Path of Exile just develop a fake economy that exists and is participated in. And I'm glad he wrote in. I remember that about Diablo 3 was really the first time I ever really encountered that as a person who, I don't play Diablo 3, but just being aware of it, of the auction house. I'm like, what? Like, that's so interesting. And I guess in some way Steam has like the trading cards or whatever, right? And shit.
Yeah.
Although I know the market for those is like really collapsed, and you have to have like an extraordinary amount of stuff to get anything done. It's funny. I saw when I read this last night, I was thinking, I'm like, grinding gear, the developer could like do some central bank shit, like inflate the currency or something, like print money. Like, it's funny when you have fake economies like this, or like there are real economies, but like in a fake space, it's like, well, the same things that would manipulate a real economy would manipulate that economy. I mean, you could flood the market, you could deflate the currency, you could put price controls on things, you could do all sorts of shit. And that's like what's so funny about the sociology behind this sort of thing. I love it. It's great. They didn't intend for this to happen, but it's happened. And like you said, an oligarchy is controlling the economy of this game, like the fake economy. of this game, and I love it. So I don't know what the solution is, but those different things I said are options that they could do. They could fuck the economy up in all sorts of ways if they want, or even it out. What do you think about this, Chris? Did either of you play Path of Exile? It's not a game for me.
Not me.
I did.
You did, Dustin? Oh, okay.
I did a little bit, but Chris, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, why not? Like, I almost feel like the urge to, because it's a fake economy. I don't know how anybody doesn't resist the urge. It's like, let's make a depression.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like engineer shit like that.
Yeah, like there's no stakes really. Like there's just kind of, but like not really. Like no one cares like to the degree that it would be like, you know, devastating. So like I almost feel like it would be difficult for me in the driver's seat of this thing not to just completely like wreak havoc on this unsuspecting economy. It would be the call would be too alluring. So like props on them for not, I guess, and like sustaining it, I guess.
Yeah,
but it's
probably
so funny.
It is
so
hysterical
funny that it's real.
I assume you want to lean into like some keeping people engaged and solving it to be more equitable, and maybe that's just it's just probably dealing with supply. Like just these are all fake things. They're not real. So you could just flood the market with cheap knockoffs basically and drive the cost down that way. I would love to know more about this, but Dustin, what do you have to say as a Path of Exile player? Apparently,
well, it's been a while, and I never got that deep into it. But it sounds like probably what they need to do, and again, this is looking from a million feet away. Increase the drop rates of these items so that there's more available on the market, so that will reduce the price of them. But yeah, this economy shit is hilarious. I watched a YouTube video a few months ago, which I didn't really grow up playing this game, but Holly did, is RuneScape. And the title of the video is why RuneScape's useless party hats cost more than a car. And it's in the thumbnail, it's $42,000. It's really interesting. Like these party hats were a random throwaway drop that something like Santa left these presents around or something. You could get a party hat and it did literally nothing. So people would throw them away, but they never released them again in the game. And so they became the most coveted item
That's so
in
interesting.
RuneScape. They were so expensive that you couldn't, like, the trade, like something about the trades had like caps on how much they could do. So people were having to trade outside of game because the value was so high. It's crazy. And also reminded, this is an economy based, but there's the whole story about like a pandemic in World of Warcraft where there was a bug that a certain boss, if I remember correctly, gave some people some kind of blood disease that would spread to other players. And it was supposed to go away, but it didn't. It was bugged. So there's people that were running into crowded cities and infecting people. And they had to shut down the game in order to fix it. There were like save zones and shit, dude. It's insane. I'm sure there's great YouTube videos about it. Let's see.
That's good shit.
That's an amazing. That's my favorite. I could never really engage that deeply with like games of that magnitude, but I love that that's real.
There's
like
a whole
and just like you were talking about too with Eve, it's the same thing. Where it's just like it's so interesting.
Oh, this is way back, like when the game launched.
It's called the Corrupted Blood Incident. There's a whole very long Wikipedia page about it.
That is awesome.
And
Corrupted blood.
As a research model, the Center for Disease Control Prevention contacted Blizzard after the incident, asking if they could use the data for what they perceived as a planned disease simulation. Yeah, this shit's crazy.
That's so interesting. Man. Video games are amazing.
An in-game pandemic. I'm reading the Wikipedia article. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's good shit. Love that. All right. Well, Optimus Pounds, thank you for writing in. Enjoy Path of Exile 2. I hope you become one of the haves. The 1%. Good luck to you. All right, my friends, that's it. That's all we have for this episode of this 350th episode of Sacred Symbols of PlayStation podcast. It was a good one. Brisk, but fun. Let's go around the horn and say goodbye to everyone. Chris, goodbye to you. Be well. Any plans for the rest of the day?
The rest of the day, I think I'm supposed to go to a poker night.
Oh, fun.
Tonight, which will be fun. I haven't played poker in a long time. I got to brush up a little bit. I'm sure I could. I remember like playing poker when I was a kid, and I remember just being able to learn it
It's easy. It's easy
10
to
minutes.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't looked into it yet. So I'll probably do like a quick little refresher. But it's exciting. I haven't done a poker night in I think literally like since I was like 15 was the last time I played poker. So it's been about 16 years.
Cool, man.
Which is insane. But
good luck.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
High stakes?
Not really. Like we have like a cap. It's kind of starting out. So like we might go higher, but I think the cap's like $200 or something.
Cool.
You know.
Nice. Good luck.
Yeah.
Dustin, goodbye to you. Be well. Any plans?
Any plans? Well, that game that we talked about last week, Midnight Murder Club, is out.
Yeah, the trophies are up, I saw. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'll be checking that out this weekend with the boys. But other than that, nothing really. As you mentioned, Colin, the weather's nice out. I took Frisk out for a nice brisk walk yesterday, so maybe I'll do that this evening.
Cool.
And just keep it chill and get back to playing Pushmo, the game of the year.
Yeah, game of the year, man. Bring it back. Very well. Yeah, I'm gonna go for a walk. I'll bring the dogs out, and then we'll go for a nice long walk. I'm trying to, like I said recently, I'm sick of being in my gym every day. Like it's nice out. It's not going to be tolerable for much longer. So like I'm just replacing all my cardio with just walking like 6 miles a day, and that should do the trick, I think. So I'll do that, and then I'll get back into Tactics Ogre tonight. Just hang out, relax. But yeah, that was a great episode. Thank you guys. Appreciate you as always, and congratulations on 350 episodes. Thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support. Sacred Symbols, Last Stand Media, all of the rest. Patreon.com/Last Stand Media for early ad-free access and other perks. We couldn't do it without you. We appreciate your support. LastStandMedia.store for merch. We have new Sacred Symbol shirts, but I think they're going to be listed soon, right?
Oh, yeah. I meant to mention that off the top. Yeah. We have new stealth shirts that are in blue, a restock of the standard shirt, and we have a very limited amount of stand-down shirts and hoodies that are left over. Those will be going live on the day of listening. We'll post about it. So if you want to check those out, please do.
All right, great. Appreciate that. All right. Be well out there. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.
See ya.
Take care, guys.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.